I feel like I said that before. Anyway, hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I'm your host, Craftsdwarf, here yet again with my co-host, Mathwiz.
You know, I know that One Piece is typically a battle series, like that's the thing we're going for here, but honestly, this arc felt like more of a thriller, if you ask me.
Mathwiz, I swear to fucking God. God damn it. Even your fucking... Okay. Damn it. Anyway. Comments. I have a bunch this time, actually. Let's start on one that has nothing to do with One Piece at all. Dank Deku asked, because we brought up Hunter x Hunter a couple times last time, and so, like, when has Hunter x Hunter gotten you emotional, if at all? Like, has that ever made you shed tears, or even just watery eyes, or anything like that?
I feel like there was more than the one moment, but off the top of my head, I'm just remembering the part, like, not the very last episode of the 2011 anime, but the one right before that with Gon and Killua. Like, that one got me.
Okay, interesting. Because for me, it's easily the last scene with Meruem and Komugi. Easily, like, that gets me.
See, if I went back, I rewatched parts of the Chimera Ant arc, and, like, parts of that got me more, like, they didn't make me emotional, maybe because I was watching it with a friend, so, like, I wasn't allowing myself to be emotional, but, like, I feel like if I went back and rewatched it, there'd be a bunch of moments.
Yeah, that's the struggle, though, when you're watching something with a friend and something gets you, and you're not, you know you can't cry, but you feel it. Like, I haven't had that happen yet, because I have watched stuff with another friend. I don't know, man. Would I hold it back? Would I let it all go? I have no idea. So, another one, so I asked last time about Asura and, like, Zoro's technique and the sort of, if there was any, like, connection with any religious symbolism regarding it. And Funky TK brought up a point about how, you know, the Asura is power-hungry, obsessed with ego, force, and violence, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that doesn't sound like Zoro at all. Like, maybe before Zoro versus Mr. One, but that fight, like, deliberately had Zoro transcending that desire to be stronger, so, like, in that way, he's definitely not like the Ashura, but there is also the anti-god aspect to the Ashura, which I would say is appropriate, especially because if you consider he's fighting against the world government. And if you'll remember, I believe maybe they haven't called it that yet, but Marijoa, the capital of the world, it's also called the Holy Land. So there's definitely a bit of the world government. There's way more of that to come, of the world government propping itself up as this, like, literal holy figure, like a god. So they definitely have a lot of power, but that hasn't quite come in. So that aspect is there, I suppose, but So yeah, thank you for the research. Do you have any comments yet?
There was one by, now I can't find it. One by Trento, which I feel like at this point should be kind of obvious, but I'll answer it anyway. Do I think I'm at a point where I would recommend reading One Piece to anyone else? Yes, everyone should read One Piece.
Yes.
Although, will I have any videos to make on it? I mean, hopefully. At present, I'm still kind of I probably won't make any, or at least make, you know, maybe one, but I feel like I won't make any until I've caught up.
Right. Yeah, and, well, because it's like, the Nen Show, like, the whole point of the Nen Show was to make content, you know, or it was to read these really long things, give us an excuse to do it, and that would, in turn, become content, and, like, even though, I have so many things I still need to get to, but, like, both of us have ideas for videos on the big three. Like, even if at this point, we've only done Naruto videos, well, I've done One Piece videos, but not Nen Show related ones, like, they were just from before, so, like, not from the reread, and, like, I want to do Bleach videos, I want to do One Piece videos, I even have one that was going to be a Naruto video, but it might become more general. I have to do more research into that, but it's like, yeah, as far as, like, inspiring content goes, I think it's been pretty good. You know, you got your, is your Hope and Hypocrisy video, like, one of your most popular, if not your most popular? Like, what's your most viewed video now? Is it still, like, the older...
No, it's still, the Talk No Jutsu video is, like, my fifth or fourth most popular, bleh. But yeah, it's up there.
That's good. I haven't checked mine in a while, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I assume I will be able to dethrone Boruto with Boruto's dad as the most popular Naruto series video I have. Oh, no, wait, but there's still the tournament video, so never mind.
Oh, sad. So yeah, Ron Quixote asked about, because I mentioned that I was on the Arlong Park forums last time. He was on them in 2015, so we had zero chance to interact because I was only really like lurking on them from up until 2008-ish, maybe at most, like from 2006 to 2008. So pretty early into my One Piece fandom stint, but I didn't stay there very long. So in case anyone else was curious. I might have misspelled this, but Thornray or Thornray. Okay, because last time I was like, oh yeah, Garp seems to be in contact with Dragon, but I think I jumped the gun there and got a bit excited because, like, rereading that bit, there's nothing that implies that they actually talked, just that Garp heard that they met. Like, because if he heard that, though, I mean, Smoker bumped into the world's most wanted man on Logtown. Garp would probably hear about that. So, and Luffy would have come up, so yeah, he could have just inferred it. Like, he doesn't have to be in contact with Dragon to know about that. And I don't know why
that sounds a little more reasonable.
I don't know why I assumed that. I just maybe I got excited. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, I have two more things to mention. No comments specifically, just general things. Do you have any more comments?
Feel like maybe there's one more, but I don't remember what it was. So no.
That's fine, because things happened. Like, we just recorded a podcast last night, so you didn't have time to finish the reading and check out comments earlier, even though you started the reading like a couple days ago, which was great. And then I
did start it in advance, but then I also had like a lot of things to do in the last couple of days. So even like with my head start, I still kind of was up at the last minute.
Right, like we're like a half an hour after our usual recording time just because you needed that extra time. And it's like, and I gave you Wanted to read, and I gave you a video to watch of the Binks's brew, and it's like, I'm not helping. So yeah, we'll mention that later, but two more things I want to mention. There was some talk on the political correctness by a couple comments, and it's definitely, it's something we'll touch on here, and something I'll talk about later when we have more context to go over, because it's like I finally seen like a half decent argument from the opposing side regarding Sanji's thing, at least an opposing opinion, and there's still some aspects to it I'd want to comment on, but again, it's just easier to talk about with the whole series, and a later arc will give us the perfect opportunity to talk about Sanji in the context of like pretty much everything he's done that's relevant to the story. But so it's like I definitely want to talk about it, but aside from like we'll talk about it within the context of this arc and what the story thus far. But I definitely want to come back to it later because it's, I don't know. Well, I think like this is basically going to be a video, but like I get, because what I'm mostly interested in doing it video wise is like thematic analysis, like a more objective critique, like objective literary critique, which does exist, and I found a link for it that's basically describes like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I do and kind of want to do, where just like how I sort of like focus on the context of the work itself and what it's doing on its own merits, like, and that involves like suspending my personal like biases, which I'll definitely talk about later with Sanji, because I don't agree with certain aspects of it, but I also understand where it's coming from and what it's in service to. So, but it's like, so it's like with a feminist critique or a queer reading, like that's a different kind of literary analysis. So, it's like, so, if it's just purely on understanding the story, then I think, the objective thematic formalist reading is more important. But if you're talking about a cultural reading, then yeah, that's not the most important thing. So it's like, it just depends on what you're talking about. 'Cause like, so it's, and what you care about the most. So, and I don't think either are necessarily more or less valuable than the others. Like, I personally mostly care about, like, this, especially with One Piece, my favorite thing. I'd rather, even if I don't agree with certain aspects to it, like, last time you were talking about how you're not even sure if you, or agree or disagree with, like, the author's stance on, weapons and stuff, but you thought the conflict was interesting with Frankie's flashback. That was more than last time. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's just my sort of stance on analysis, I suppose, and I'll do a video talking on it. So, and I'll definitely do a video on Sanji because he's worth talking about, even though he's your least favorite. And this arc, I don't imagine helped.
I don't know. Even then, like my Straw Hat rankings, like I know I said Sanji was my least favorite last time, but I don't know. Like I still see potential that, because like I've seen some sentiments in the comments that like, oh well, when you read One Piece the first time, then yeah, all that stands out about Sanji is the that attitude of his, but like when you reread it, then you're able to appreciate other parts. So like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not being fair to the guy.
Maybe. And yeah, well, the other thing is like, because honestly, like with certain aspects of One Piece, I'm still only coming to understand them like recently, like having reread. Well, because it's like things are happening in the newest stuff, and I have to think about like, okay, how did like a good example is Luffy's his like recklessness and his like charging head into things, like. Because there's stuff like that happening recently, so I had to think about like that in the context of the whole story, and I came to an interesting conclusion that we're definitely going to talk about in the future when that recklessness, quote unquote, gets challenged. I suppose is how I'd say. But even then, I guess to spoil it a bit, I wouldn't even call it recklessness because I feel like recklessness implies it's a character flaw. But we'll definitely talk more about Luffy's character. We'll talk more about Sanji's character. We're just over halfway done episode wise, and halfway done chapter wise. So yeah, at least of what's been published so far and what we're reading.
And I do kind of want to call attention to this because I know in the podcast we did last night, I thought this was funny, but like we are just beyond the halfway point in the One Piece reading now, and Craftsdwarf will still say things like, oh, well, Mathwiz hasn't actually read much One Piece, even though I'm like at the halfway point of what's currently published. That's just because there's so much damn One Piece content.
There's still like fucking 45 volumes to go. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's like the length of, that's more than like a lot of manga.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't pick up a 45 like series lightly. Series. Right. Like I wouldn't even pick up a 30 volume series lightly. But like, and then so we've read that much One Piece and there's still that much to go. Like Jesus fucking Christ. Like let alone how I feel about trying to tackle Hajime no Ippo or something, or Gintama, like 70 plus volumes, 100 plus volumes. Like fuck.
It really puts everything in perspective because like I bought all that manga and we finally got down to the end of my pickup from a couple of months ago.
Yeah, you were reading
and like
online.
There's like this is maybe half the series. Like by the time it's over, this is less than half of the series, and I own 48 volumes.
Yeah, and the other thing is like it's not all published in English, so I don't even know how much you can get in the, because you have the 3-in-1s, which is cheaper, so it's good. But then, are you gonna go with the 3-in-1s till the end, or are you gonna break your collection and ruin it by getting different versions of the smaller volumes? I mean, the smaller volumes have the good the full covers, which are always nice, because you get the cropped ones. But anyway, so yeah, I have one more thing to mention. This is more of a plug, and I just want to say, like, if you're interested in One Piece discussion, especially, like we have there, I would check out my Discord server only if you are caught up with One Piece, because we like that's the thing is like we used to have a rule like only talk about One Piece in this channel. We have like a One Piece dedicated channel, and then we're like, okay, now we got to only talk about One Piece in these channels because I get talked about it comes up a lot in this one. And now it's just like, okay, if you haven't caught up with One Piece, like just expect spoilers like anywhere, because like I can't enforce it, because like my most dedicated fans have probably come to me from my Beyond Blood video, so it makes sense that so many of them are super into One Piece. So yeah, but I would recommend checking out my Discord. I mean, it's obviously a biased source for this information, but it's probably one of the best places to discuss One Piece, because if you're not into power leveling and power scaling, because no one here on my server really cares, but they do, like, they're mostly interested in understanding the story, and that's cool. And then we also have like other discussions, like they're doing like I'm not taking part in them because I have no fucking time, but there's like a weekly Tezuka discussion where they're reading a few volumes of Blackjack every week. There's like a weekly Rumiko Takahashi discussion. Now they started Inuyasha. They've been doing Gintama and My Hero Academia for a little while. So it's like they're talking about other stuff too, if you want to read stuff. And, it's cool. So yeah, I'd recommend checking out my Discord server. I just thought I'd advertise it here because, I don't know, why not get a little bit bigger? So yeah, that is everything before the discussion I had to say.
But before we even get to discuss One Piece, we've got some other stuff to talk about.
Yep. Wait, did you have more to talk about? Or?
Well, no, I
meant... Yeah, this, right, okay.
I was trying to set you up for a segue, you didn't take it, Craftsdwarf.
I was scared, I thought there was more. I was like, okay, we can finally talk about One Piece, and then you're like, you say something that might be inferred as introducing more stuff, and I'm like, oh god, what's going on? Alright. So actually, there is something we have to take before we get into the discussion. Oh shit, you're right. I'm an idiot. I did not reread it, but I made you read it. Well, I said I didn't even make you read it. You read it on your own volition. I just said Oda's one-shot collection, Wanted. I have not read it in a little while. But there was one specific one-shot that's retroactively canon to the series as of this arc. So I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on Wanted as a whole?
Yeah, I know you said I only really needed to read Monsters, but I was like, well, if I'm going to read the one, I might as well read them all. And a lot of it was pretty boring. Not going to lie, not going to sugarcoat it. I would say Monsters was I feel like talking about Romance Dawn is kind of cheating because it was like a prototype for One Piece, or a pilot or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like chapter 1 and it's slightly different, but different in a few ways. Yeah,
so the first 3 stories were really bland and boring and reminded me of Zombie Powder, which wasn't good. But then again, this was Oda pre-one. Actually, there was a comment after one of them where Oda was like, yeah, I knew that I wanted to make a story about pirates, but I knew it was going to be way too big for a one-shot, so I figured I'd save that for serialization.
And so it did.
So it was interesting, looking at the one-shots with that knowledge that, but he's got this big pirate story that he's just waiting on. He knows it's this big magnum opus.
Yeah, it'll go on for 5 years, he thought at the time.
But yeah, the first one was a weird, a Western cowboy shoot-'em-up thing, and people died, which was surprising. The guy was like, oh, I shoot people, but it's self-defense, and that felt really weird, because Oda typically avoids death in One Piece, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But it was just a really boring story, in my opinion, which, I don't know. I mean, and also, the art definitely, in none of them, I don't, except maybe, Monsters was kind of starting to get there. It wasn't all that, super polished, which I know the one he said that, I had, I had to write these few pages in, a day or whatever, because I ended up in the hospital and I was coming up on a deadline, which was interesting.
Man, manga authors have it rough.
But yeah, I guess I don't have, a whole lot to say about the stories other than that one of the characters in Monsters comes back in One Piece.
Yeah, right, because, I guess in case the audience, because I mentioned it in the comments
Oda thing
last time, in case, because it's it's weird. It's because it is it's not required reading, but it definitely it's it's introducing this island that the character mentions of Wano, the
no, okay, did you hear any of that?
No,
did I cut out?
What did you say? It might have been Discord being weird.
Well, what all did you hear?
You were talking about, you were mentioning Monsters and saying that, it comes back, and, it's relevant to One Piece, and I started on that.
Oh, okay, I just heard silence, so I was like, oh god, what happened?
But Ryuba is a zombie boy, and, there was a dragon in his country, and Moria went to that country, robbed the body, and there we are. But let's actually, that was, I guess my thoughts on Wanted, having not read it in a while, I guess it was fine. The one with the monk, I don't remember, at all. I kind of remember what happened, but I remember that being probably the weakest one. The Life Note one with the thief guy, that one I don't know if I liked that one more or not, but I remember finding it notable. But yeah. And of course the original, I forget if that's the first, because there's actually 2 other versions of Romance Dawn. One with, because I think there was the first version that had Shanks in it, and then the second version was I guess he mentioned that he didn't want the audience to know about Shanks before the actual serialization, so he had Luffy's grandfather instead, who of course looks a lot like Garp, and then which also actually works better, because now that that's why he had Garp wear the mask at first, because Garp never wears his mask after that point. It was literally there to hide him from the audience, because people would have hey, this looks like a lot like Luffy's grandfather from this other version of Romance Dawn. So yeah. So anyway, let's finally get into discussion after fucking 15-20 minutes. I don't know how long.
What? Well, actually, I guess I do have one more quick thing to say about Monsters before we get into the discussion. It definitely felt like the most Oda of the 4 one-shots, not counting Romance Dawn, I guess, because it had the flashback in it, and it had the big.
That's right.
I also like how he had said, like, oh, I just wanted to draw, like, a big 2-page spread of a dragon getting slain or whatever. And I was like, oh, Kubo? Is this Kubo?
And also, like, obviously the main character looks a lot like Zoro. And even the other guy has a few, like, Mihawk design parallels, almost. So, just sort of his general, like, aesthetic, I suppose, made me think a little bit of Mihawk. So it's like, you see, there's some fingerprints of One Piece there, too, even though it, yeah, so... But anyway, finally getting started on the reading. So, the Straw Hats have set sail from Water 7 in their new ship, the Thousand Sunny. They're dicking around with its wonders, like Nami's in the bath, the aquarium. Everyone's just like enjoying the ship. It's cool. They find a mysterious barrel in the sea, an offering to a god. I like the like jabs back and forth. Like Zoro's like, I pray to no god, and then like Luffy's like, hey, I'm gonna have a snack, god, and Zoro, basically they're referencing Skypiea, and it's fun because they already beat up god. But anyway, they end up in the Florian Triangle. So you might not have caught onto this first, because you wouldn't have known the whole like what's happening in the Florian Triangle. But rereading it, I like how the rumors around Brook and Moria have sort of mixed together. Like, so there's a living skeleton that's there, but also there's disappearing ships. So it's like built up in a way that when we see the ghost ship, the spooky ghost ship, and now we're like, so it's implied that maybe this is the reason that the ships are disappearing. So all the characters are like, oh fuck, except Robin. Like in the big panel, they're like, ghost ship, and Robin just like, I don't give a fuck. Robin just never emotes like over the top at this point still. But yeah, so it's just building up the Brook ship in a different way, which I guess leads. See, this was real. I remember the reaction to this was really good. Reading this weekly, because like you have like the fucking Enies Lobby in Water 7 where like Usopp and Robin leave the crew, Frankie joins, so it's like this whole big tumultuous thing, and then like the first chapter of the next arc, hey, you want to join my crew? Sure.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with how quickly that happened, because, like, obviously, I mean, spoilers for the rest of this podcast, I guess, but Brook joins the crew.
Right.
Big surprise.
And you knew about that before, even, because it's like, you don't see a skeleton, like, with the main characters, and you don't just forget that, okay? Like, you know,
yeah.
So
I thought it was really interesting that, like, Brook just appears, like, immediately, especially, like, after the big, we had the big Water 7 saga, and then, like, hello, can I join the crew?
Yeah, it's great. Like,
it was, I don't know, this arc was interesting in that,
Okay, my internet fucking died. We're back. I don't know what we were talking about, because it died for, like, a good, like, 20 plus minutes? Give or take? Like, felt like a while.
I remember you were talking about, like, how the Moria and the ship were tied together, the Skelly.
Yes. And how the rumors kind of got mixed together because, like, overall, like, there's just Oda playing around with the audience's expectations, I think, because, like, he uses the rumor to both foreshadow what's actually happening, and then make the characters have a negative reaction to him, but then, like, it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just join. So it's like, wait, what? So yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I already know exactly what to expect, but it's good. And I like how, like, even though Luffy's accepted him into the crew, like, everyone else is just kind of like, no, what the fuck, Luffy? Like, oh man. So yeah, they bring him onto the ship, and they get to learn a bit more about him, like how he is a skeleton. He's got a devil fruit that revived him from death, but he couldn't find his ship. And then
I will say, just going off, because, like, I know we've talked about how, like, the Straw Hats, when they, like, they'll get a flashback, and then, like, after that, it's more like what is their base personality, and, like, that's kind of what carries them through. And I feel like Brook is probably going to end up being one of my favorite members of the Straw Hats.
That's cool, because he's like, he's very much that, like, we talked about a bit with Orihime back in Bleach, but he's like the character who's gone through some shit and is, like, really goofy to sort as, like, a coping mechanism. Because holy shit, Brook is a dark fucking character when you think about it. Like, he's legitimately, like, considered suicide because, like, he's had a hard fucking life, okay? 50 fucking years just on a boat in the ocean. He can't steer the boat. He can't leave this foggy shithole. He's just like there. And then the first because there's a bit of a thing where he says like he hasn't when he first meets the Luffy, Nami, and Sanji, he says that like, oh, I haven't seen people in decades, but that doesn't turn out to be true considering he has seen at least Hogback as far as people go, other than that zombies. So it's like so it's not I don't know, that was weird, like rereading it and be like, hey, wait, that's not exactly
Maybe
true.
he meant like humans. Was Hogback a human?
Hogback. That's okay. All the main like villains of Thriller Bark that aren't zombies are human. Even Moria, even though he's like this fucking like really tall, he's got like fangs, horns. I think if you look at the volume cover, he's even got like pale skin, but he's human. Which I think just goes to show how much variety humans can have. And like later on, we'll see like Kuma is also human and he's just as big. And I don't know if they've been introduced yet, but there are like other characters who are humans who just have horns or have sharp teeth. He just happens to have like all the weird traits. He's big. He's got like, it's just like Oda's designs have just gone like, okay, as if they weren't like going far enough last time. Now he's just like, yeah, make him as crazy as possible. Like even Brook, he's like, he just happens to be really tall. Like he's taller than a normal human, you know. So that's aside from being a skeleton. So and like comparing like the Straw Hats up to like Chopper had just been like pretty normal humans looking, you know. And Robin, Frankie's been like was pretty weird, and yeah, too though. So. But yeah, like just so you know, Brook's like really goofy and shit, but like he had like we saw him on the ship alone, like doing gags to himself because like it was the only thing that kept him fucking sane. Like goddamn, this poor dude. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, we also sets up the central like thing. He doesn't have his shadow, which is basically his soul, and he you know, so he can't exist in the sunlight. And he does leave the ship as they encounter Thriller Bark, which I'm like 90% sure is supposed to be Thriller Park, but he just like he romanized it. He actually, I'm pretty sure at some point he has the B written, so everyone just accepted it. But I don't know, Japanese to English can be weird sometimes because it's like he is I don't know how good Oda's grasp of English is. Probably not amazing. So maybe it is supposed to be Thriller Park, but I don't know. Thriller Bark kind of maybe I'm just used to it for like over a decade of knowing that term. So I don't know.
I do like how this stuff is like woven together. Like you get the setup for the arc, which you don't. I mean, at the time you don't really know. But like, see, here's what I was trying to say before the internet cut out. This arc is sort of interesting. I wouldn't say that it like goes against Oda's normal style, but I don't know, the way this all just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but the way it all comes together, like you get the way Brook just kind of shows up and like, again, because like, yeah, I lost my train of thought. I didn't know where I was going with that, but something about this arc just feels different.
I guess
maybe I'll be able to place it better later.
Like Brook, he's introduced and he explains some things, but he leaves a lot of like mysteries. Like, and so it's not like there and things do unfold at like we figure out what's going on. Like the Hogback, or there's the one bat zombie dude who's like, you know, he's like oh yeah, there's nothing weird about this island. Like there's a lot of weird stuff that just happens without full explanation at first, and it sort of like unfolds as the arc goes on. So that's kind of different. And like compare it to Frankie, like. There's definitely like kind of what's going on thing, but it's like you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. While with this arc, the what's going on we don't know, but it's constantly harassing the characters. Like we don't know what the deal with the zombies is, but they're attacking how the fuck are there zombies in this setting? We can't stop that.
You said something there that kind of caught my attention, which you know I had kind of said with Water 7, like I could tell who the players were, and I was just kind of waiting for Oda to do his thing. Whereas here, I didn't feel like I had to wait for things to happen. Like things just were happening, while also things were like future things are being set up.
Right.
Guess.
So
it throws you right into the conflict, I guess, because like some of the characters get separated and just things happen kind of right away, while also still not really happening.
Yeah, like I said, the mystery is affecting the characters. They don't know what's happening, but they have to deal with it. Like we see Absalom attacking the crew. Like he's just fucking around. He's stretching Luffy's face. He's sexually harassing Robin. He's being a dick. Like, but we don't know it's Absalom with his invisibility fruit until way later. So like. Whereas, like, again, compared to Water 7, like, nothing happened that we didn't, like, understand. Like, okay, Robin was working with government goons. We didn't know who they were, but, like, we knew it kind of had a grasp of what was going on. Usopp leaves the crew. The Aqua Lagoon is coming. Like, I can't think of anything that didn't feel like, that wasn't just, like, okay, that makes sense. But this is like, okay, what the fuck is going on at first? So it definitely feels different, I would say. Like, I agree, basically. And it's cool. But all arcs are the same. All One Piece arcs are exactly the same. Yeah, because Luffy goes to the island and he helps people, and then he beats the bad guy, and that's it. All One Piece arcs are the same. I mean, that's not wrong in this case, but it's still just reductive. So, but yeah, they get caught in a web.
Before we get to that moment,
go ahead.
I know that there is a point. Which I don't know what people think of it. I just remember Best Guy Ever brought it up in a video one time how when they see the island and Brook jumps off the ship and is light enough to run on water, despite being a devil fruit user, which, like, I don't know, I just think it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, because I think he's explained this in the SBS, but here's how devil fruit, like, weaknesses work. Because, yeah, they're vulnerable to water if they are half submerged in water.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Luffy can fight in rain.
He explained that in Water 7,
yes.
I think.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely, or in the SBS, I think, at one point. Well, because he also talked about it with Crocodile, because, like, Crocodile has a specific weakness to water. Like, let's put it this way. If Luffy was attacked while he was taking a shower, he could fight back, because the shower water just runs off of him, so he's not in danger. But Crocodile, his fruit, he can't turn into sand, because he's covered in water. So he's actually he's at a different disadvantage. It's not because it's water, or because he's a devil fruit user, it's because of his specific devil fruit. So it's like, with Brook, like, his feet, he can touch his feet against the water. Like, it doesn't hurt him. Like, it's not like poison, it's just water. Unless he's half submerged. In that case, he's in danger, because he will sink. But
I do think it's kind of funny, because, like, bones aren't that light, but this is One Piece, so who cares?
Yeah,
it works.
And even then, there's, like, there's, Brook falls from the sky at one point, and he, like, leaves, like, a big, like, Looney Tunes imprint in the ground, but, like, even though he's supposed to be light, like, that doesn't, it's not consistent, but it looks funny, I guess. So I don't have a problem with it, because it's just, like, he set up the thing, like, it's fine. And it does sort of, like, factor into what Lucci was saying before about how, like, falling into the water isn't really a problem if you're a devil fruit user. So yeah, and Brooks has an even easier time of not falling into the water. Like, most people won't, so it's not a major weakness. So yeah, Absalom attacks the ship. Did you have any, like, thoughts on that when it was happening? Because you didn't even know about it. So like, I'm kind of curious as to how you think, because, like, I didn't have much to say about these earlier chapters because I already knew what was happening. But for you, the experience going through would have been a bit different, I imagine. So. But I was wondering if you had.
I know that we're a little late for this to be a Halloween episode.
Yes,
but,
I forgot to mention.
I started reading this on Halloween.
Perfect.
So, maybe it was just fitting. Maybe I'm a little biased towards, like, the atmosphere of this arc, but I really did like the sort of, like, the spookiness and the mystery of it. So these earlier chapters where it's just like we said, like, there are things are just happening, but we don't really know what's happening. So, like, the Invisible Man, that'll keep being an issue for another dozen or so chapters or whatever before it's actually revealed what's going on.
Right.
And there are other little things like that, which I think is pretty cool. Also, there's a part where in the new ship that Frankie built, there's a Mini Mary.
Mini Mary. And they get so excited that they crash and fall into a ditch, the fucking idiots. And Nami's like, you'll forgive me because I'm cute, right? Like, she is cute, but also I want to say, because Nami changes outfits like like, she's got 4 outfits in this one arc, and they're all pretty good. Like, I think my favorite is the one with the skull shirt that she had during the Oars fight after she changed out of the wedding dress. But yes. Like, I don't know, I just want to specify that, like, is she, because I feel like, Because Water 7, she had, and Enies Lobby, she had like 3 outfits, but that arc was like noted, like those 2 arcs were considerably longer than Thriller Bark. So it's like it's just a high density of outfit changes. This arc is what I wanted to point out.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. That like Nami just seems to be the character who gets most of the outfit changes. Like not all the time, because like Usopp got a different costume
Usopp,
here.
Robin, Frankie has a different shirt. Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy are basically wearing the same stuff. Well, actually, if you, Luffy is wearing an orange vest and red pants, and like he's just a palette swap, which doesn't show up in manga. Like,
yeah,
because that's the thing. Like, because even in Enies Lobby, and there are some later costume changes. He just changes the color of what he's wearing, basically. So it's not. It's like, okay, sure, I guess it's different clothes. Yeah, but like Usopp had a much more notable like costume change. Even Chopper is wearing a cross, so it's like yeah, everyone changes costumes, but Nami has definitely done so the most. You know.
One thing I noticed on my little 3-in-1 here, I don't know if it would be the same on any one of the other volumes you would have, but I noticed that like on the volume covers, he's got the orange vest and the red pants, but then like on the side, he's got a red vest and orange pants, which.
Okay, that's weird. Because, like, looking at mine, they're pretty... his clothes are consistent, at least on the front of the volumes, for, like, the rest of the arc. So, like, I'm looking at volume, he's wearing that outfit on the cover of 48, 49, and 50, and he's still got orange vest and red pants. So I don't know what the sidebar thing... Maybe it's a... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's just the 3-in-1s have a different little side... What do they call this? The... fucking... I don't know. I don't know. It's not important.
The spine.
Yeah, the spine. There you go.
So, yes, I don't read a lot, so I don't know the book or the name of book parts, the anatomy of a book. So anyway, so yeah, they got the Minimary. They fell like, and one thing, it comes up more later than now, but I love how the Weakling trio and the 600 million berry group have like completely different reactions to the exact same things. Like it's so fun seeing like because they see the Cerberus and they just lose their shit. Like one of the heads is a fox and then they're running away and then they run into zombies and they're fighting them and they get attacked and it's like holy shit we're gonna get bit and turned into zombies and then the other Strats come by and they just don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah, I really like how Oda handled the stakes in this arc through, like, separating the cast. Like, you do have the 3 weaker members go in first, so, like, everything can feel intense and whatnot, and spooky, because they're the weaker characters. They can't defend themselves as well. But then, like, the other guys come in, and everything just gets wrecked. Because, like, we've already seen the spookiness. We know it's spooky. We know what's there. And now it's just it gets destroyed.
Yes, and I also want to like because I've heard someone say that like just a fan I forget where, but like that they actually find maybe it was even in the comments, but they find this arc funnier. Like it's their favorite arc in the series gags wise, and I still think I prefer Davy Backfight, but this one does have a lot of good gags. Like the zombies are just really fucking goofy. Like both times, like they're like oh zombies are slow so they can't, and then they're like sprinting after them, but they have low endurance, so they get tired quickly. And then the gag where Luffy pushes the zombie back into the ground.
That's easily like one of the best gags in One Piece. You know, I might actually agree. This might be the funniest arc. I think. Maybe.
That's fine. Yeah. No, there's a lot of good stuff. It's good. Like and then. Like, okay, I'm skipping ahead to specify a gag, but, like, Sindri has her thing with no plates, and I love how, like, she just drops pudding on the table, and they just, like, eat it, like, without hands, just, like, licking it off the table like fucking animals. And they're having, like, a serious conversation with their heads bent over the table as they're licking the table, the pudding off the table. Like, what the fuck? It's so good. It is really good humor-wise.
I also like the negative hollows or whatever they are. Where we're jumping all around now, but like how they'll just make people depressed.
I want to be reborn as a clam, and of course that comes back in a really great way later. But we'll save that.
Yes. No, this arc's really good.
Oh man.
Like I think it's amazing that like we're coming off of Water 7, which was this gigantic like 150-60 chapter like epic. So like I was expecting this to be kind of like the cool like what Davy Backfight was for Skypiea. Like I was expecting this to be more of like a cool down, like things would the stakes would be lower. That was not the case, but still like it works. Like the humor really helps, I think,
Yeah, it adds to the levity without it being lower in stakes. So yeah, I see what you mean there. So it's like it's still like, especially the first part is definitely lighter hearted. Like even though like I love the line when like Brook is explaining his backstory and they're like, and he like laughs, and I think Sanji's like, why are you so cheery? Your life sucks. And I'm just like, yeah, like, so, you know, even though it's like, it is this like spooky, like these are zombies, dead people who've been stitched up together and reanimated. You know, Brook has a fucking rough life, but it's still like so much humor, and it somehow works because it's One Piece, and Oda's good with, like, I don't know, some people find it too goofy, you know, that's fine, but I think it works. I think he's really good at managing tone. Like, I don't think the humor detracts from the serious parts, because there are some of those later, especially during the climax and stuff. So yeah, One Piece is good. But
no, I like how this 3-headed dog shows up, but it's like, oh, one of the heads is a fox, and it's just like this reaction panel.
Yeah, it gets so, like, and then it chases them in anger.
And then there's also the one line when when the gang shows up and Sanji's like, you know, this Cerberus would have been better in hell or whatever, and it's just
better
like
off in hell
because like
or
the crew, the 600 million berry group,
they just wreck. But yeah, we're not. Quite
no,
there
it was
yet.
probably safer in hell. That was the quote.
Oh, that was, yes. So yeah.
So
anyway,
this crew is great.
Yes. But anyway, so yeah, the weakling trio, they Chopper starts to gush over Hogback, who, you know, is a great doctor. You know, actually, I think he's even like the best surgeon in the world, or maybe I don't know if they said that, but he's definitely great, like a great doctor. So Chopper admires him. They do eventually reach the mansion after a series of spooky hijinks with the zombies. Yeah, it is a shame that we weren't able to record this on Halloween, but because of scheduling things, and obviously Water 7 was long, so, but it's still, yeah, we're close enough. Fuck it.
But then I wouldn't have been able to read bits of it on Halloween, and it would have been less spooky for me.
That's true. So yeah, they do get to the mansion. We're introduced to the zombie Sindri, who, like, Hogback gives her backstory, which is, I think I think it's true, but of the shadow, like of the owner of the shadow, and not obviously it's not true of Sindri herself, like, because it obviously like connects to her personality. Well, because it's like, because the shadows are basically souls, and I definitely think like when that gets explored, especially during Chopper and Hogback's fight later, like obviously we're dealing with some like fantasy stuff, but I like because Oda said he's not religious, but at the same time this arc does deal with some like spiritual aspects with that stuff, but we'll touch on that later, I suppose.
And also what I like with Sindri, because you did say that, you know, the backstories were kind of mixed, like it's not untrue, but it's just of the shadow, and also
right.
By like introducing this character, like it continues to further that mystery, which like, wait, what is it? What is the element that Sindri specifically? Was it the shadow part? Like, I had it before we started recording. She, like different elements that are in, like, as they're introduced, they're also foreshadowing future things.
Okay.
So like Sindri, she did something, and I can't remember the specific thing I was gonna point out. Ugh.
Because, I mean, like, yeah, there's the plate thing. She's a zombie. Then we later find out about the actress.
Oh, yeah. It's because the fact that, like, there is, like, a dead... Like, there's the dead body that's... I don't know. Like, how she was dead, so, like, we're... Like, they see the room with her, and they're like, wait, what's going on here? So it's, like... Obviously, it all gets explained later, but, like, this is more of, like, the mystery. Like, giving us the clues. So, like, if you're into the... trying to figure things out beforehand, especially like if this would have been coming out weekly, like I could picture people trying to piece together the mysteries of like what's going on.
Yeah, see, I don't actually remember that much because I didn't engage in the theories and stuff, but yeah, that now you mentioned it, this probably would have been fun for that. And I also noticed that the backstory, it ties into one of the big themes of the arc, sort of like dealing with grief a bit, where especially with Moria and Brook, but also Sindri, where she, you know, or the original owner of the shadow, like, couldn't handle the loss of the, like, it wasn't a death, so to speak, but it was definitely like, you know, she was engaged, it didn't work, and yeah, she got pissed. So but we actually see that when we see the owner of the shadow later, what was the name? I wrote it down. yeah, we see her later when she gets the shadow back, and she's better now. Like, things are okay. Like, 10 years wasn't enough. She just needed some time to recover. It's cool. So yeah. But yeah, like, one thing I do like is, like, there is a mystery element to the arc, but at the same time, the characters, especially, like, Nami, she's talking about it in the bath, and it's like, yeah, this is obviously suspicious. Hogback totally has a connection to the zombies. Like, it's fucking obvious. Like, she knows. Like, she doesn't have evidence, obviously, but she's just like, yeah, we're not staying. Fuck that. Like, it's just, what was I gonna say? Like, the characters are pretty aware of what's going on. Like, so there's a mystery element, but they're not, like, being tricked. Like, they know it's fucking shady, but they don't have much choice. So, yeah, it's cool.
Now, I had also been thinking about this a little bit while I was reading. I know you had talked about how, like, Chopper hadn't had the chapter titled, like, you know, when the new member joins the crew.
Yes.
So you had thought that, like, maybe Oda was going to have him leave the crew at one point, but then decided not to do that, or maybe just hasn't done it yet, if there would still be a reason. And so I was kind of, like, wondering, looking at this arc, because Chopper does kind of gravitate towards Dr. Hogback, so, like, there's a little, like, this is, I don't know if I'd call this a Chopper arc, but, like, there's a little bit of focus on Chopper.
He gets more moments here than he's had in, like, other arcs. Like, I can't think of anything in, like, Alabasta. Like, Skype even had the Getasu fight, and I'd still say that this Hogback stuff was more important than that. So it's like, this is some of his most important character moments since Drum. Like, not that he hasn't had other ones, but this is definitely, like, quote unquote, more of Chopper's arc than it is of, like what did, like, I mean, a lot of characters get timeless moments too, so it's hard to even say that, but yeah, it's cool.
Because it does make me wonder, like, if Oda was going to do that thing, would this have been, like, part of the original plans for Thriller Bark? Like, maybe Chopper somehow gets on their side to, like, I don't know, learn about research or whatever, but then changes his mind. I don't know. Like, again, I'm just speculating. It doesn't really add anything, I guess, but...
Yeah. Like, that's definitely interesting, but to consider, but it's hard to say so exactly what he had in mind. So yeah, they ask about so we do find out, like, Hogback's interested in immortality, and the zombies are related to, or, you know, he's investigating the zombies because he wants right, so, and of course this does factor into, like, their respective ideologies and their conflict later, but overall, like, yeah, they just talk, they get dressed, Nami gets attacked in the bath by Absalom. Not sure if I had anything specific to say about that yet, but it happened. Oh yeah, but so anyway, the other Straw Hats go in, and they, like, that, like, we already talked about it a bit, but they have, like, the opposite or not the opposite reactions, but they're completely unique ones, and because they're stronger, they just don't give a fuck.
And Luffy tries to tame the three-headed beast.
He's like, stay, and he gets bitten, and he punches it, and he's like, stay, and it's just, like, fucking on the ground, just dead, like, Luffy tamed it. But yeah, anyway, the trio gets attacked by the surprise zombies in the mansion, and they find the Sindri, the portraits, Hogback's room. Sindri was his waifu, apparently, except real and not 2D. Well, she's 2D to us, but not to him. And then, yeah, as if there wasn't, then they pretty much start drawing the line between Hogback and the zombies. Oh yeah, here's the negative ghosts that we were talking about earlier, because, yeah, it is funny the way they just ruin, like, well, because especially I like when Zoro, because he's just like, man, you guys are pathetic, you don't have enough willpower, these ghosts are making a fool out of you, and then he gets hit by the ghost, he's like, I'm sorry, I was bored. Like, fucking Zoro. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's really funny also that, like, I don't know, like, I had really liked this joke, and then, like, immediately after is the one I brought up earlier, or
yes,
no, the one about Luffy putting the zombie in the ground. It's, like, literally, like, 2 pages over, and it's just like, wow, there's, like, so many back-to-back, like, the density of these
gags, yeah. I didn't mention it earlier, but when that didn't work for me because, like, Usopp farted back with, like, which it was like a plot-relevant fart. Because it covered up the scent of Absalom, so Chopper didn't notice immediately. And I'm just like, I don't know, farts are just not a gag I normally like. But, like, they sometimes show up, especially in children's media, because I guess kids find farts funny, so writers put them in or whatever. And I'm just like, there's a downside to watching like tokusatsu and reading shonen manga, because sometimes farts happen and I'm not a fan. I just thought I'd bring that up. But yeah, they fight the zombies, easily cut through them because they're the strong straw hats. I like how like the zombies are like being like pressed for information, and they reveal that they attacked them, and then they leave the zombies reburied in the ground like upside down. Fucking wrecked. So yeah, then old man shows up. Luffy I love how everyone thinks he's a zombie just because he's an old man with severe injuries, and which is what they call some of the zombies. And he explains that they've all lost their shadows to Gecko Moria, who is one of the warlords of the sea.
But
so they're dealing with a big shot. So I think up to this point, Crocodile lost his position. Then I think we know about Jinbei, but we haven't seen him. I think there's one other unnamed warlord. So then, because then there's Moria, Kuma, Doflamingo, and Mihawk as the other four. So we have almost got all the 7 warlords. Almost. And of course, the Crocodile was in fact replaced, as we find out. So yeah, I like how Frankie, like, cause he hears the story about like, oh, I wanna walk in the sun once more before I die, and Frankie just gets connected to all these emotional stories, cause he's such a dork. Like, and of course later with Brook too, like he didn't even know Laboon, and he's still like, oh no, I love you, skeleton bro. So Frankie's fun, and of course it's neat to see him. He's just a crew member now. It's cool. He's no longer of the Frankie family, and because he joined, so it's not. I know it's neat to see them, start to be part of the crew. After all that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny that Frankie was the one I didn't recognize, but now that he's like actually in the crew, I'm like, oh yeah, he fits right in. Like this is gonna go well.
Yep. So anyway, the trio's snooping around. They run into Ryuma, the samurai zombie. And then we get glimpses of the lieutenant leaders of Moria's crew. We see Moria himself sleeping. We see like silhouettes of Perona and Absalom, and then we get the full views of everyone but Moria. Moria has like grounded teeth at this point, but later on he changes it to sharp teeth. So he looks really weird to me early on because of the round teeth. I don't know. So I understand why he changed it, because like I'm trying to imagine regular Moria with rounded teeth instead of sharp teeth, and it just does not work in my brain. The sharp teeth like complete the look, and so seeing him with round teeth is kind of weird. But yeah, the monstrous straw hats reach the mansion, and I need to get my next volume. Oh, we're getting to the end of where you have your physical volumes. Oh no.
Yeah.
Have you been saving panels like you used to, or?
I will definitely be doing that in the future.
Yeah, because how did you read it? Like, were you reading the official scans? Did you get
No,
those
yeah,
somewhere?
it's still the official scans. It's just online now and not.
Yeah, let me know if you can't find them, because I'd rather stick to the official one. Like, there are some decent translations, but the official one is just the most consistent, and it's obviously consistent with what we've read so far. Like,
yeah, no, I would rather not read like 500 chapters of manga stream translations.
No, even just the fucking like 50 or so we had for Bleach was just like immediate, like, night and fucking day. Like, oh yeah, Kenpachi's gonna rape those fuckers. Yeah, that's what I want. Fuck you, manga stream. But I mean, there's got to be a good fan translation for Naruto, because even the Viz one is kind of fucked there. But anyway, so yeah, Ryuma takes out the trio. The other guys come in and wreck the surprise zombies, who were not very surprising to them. The surprise zombies got surprised. Oh yeah, Absalom awakens the general zombies. The zombie generals. Oh yeah, the cover story. Did it end this arc? I don't remember.
Yes, it did.
Okay, yeah. So, Eneru,
can we just talk about how like even the cover arcs are having flashbacks?
That's right, because so yeah, to summarize, to do what I think I summarized Broke Works last time. So to summarize the Eneru one, he went to Endless Vars, which was the moon. He ran into space pirates, because those are like who are like rodent people, because those are a thing apparently, and like So, and then there's these robots called the Spaceys, the little midget guys. They were built by this guy who saw an explosion on the moon and died of a heart attack. The explosion was caused by space pirates. They went there, they got wrecked. Eneru saw them, like, I think they were mining on the moon, and he was, pissed off that they were, what's the word I'm looking for? Corrupting the endless Vars, so he just started fucking shit up. And then he found out that, there's, like, a carving that the Sky People came from the moon. Like, the winged, there's, like, one that's, like, Shandians, and one that's, like, Skypians, and then one that's, I think, they have a slightly different wing, that they're the Vilkans, I think. So, and then now he has an army of space people and the moon. He's on the moon. Eneru's king of the moon now. So yeah,
one day One Piece will return to space and he'll be waiting.
Yes, it turns out Raftel was in space the whole time. It's time for One Piece in space. Anyway, so yeah. We get introduced to Lola, the warthog zombie who's in love with Absalom, and she goes off to kill Nami because Absalom's in love with Nami. Oh yeah, and we start getting introduced to, like, zombies because, like, Sanji got captured, so we get introduced to, like, Dogpen, who's got Sanji's shadow and his personality. Yeah, and see, now there's, like, a lot of action because they're fighting their way through the zombie generals. But yeah, eventually, even the monster trio gets caught. See, there's a lot of happen. See, now we're in, like, there's a shitload happening, so I'm trying to, like, okay, what do we talk about? Because I don't even think I had that much to say, because it is just kind of things happening for setting up for later stuff, like, because Luffy getting captured and having his shadow implanted into Oars is super important, but, like, yep, it sure is a thing that happens.
I think one thing that was also kind of interesting about this arc that maybe sort of separates it from some of the other ones is that the first three people to be targeted are, the monster trio. Like, Sanji disappears at one point, then Zoro, and then Luffy gets captured. And, like, there's even a point where, like, Nami and Usopp and Chopper are like, why is it that the three strongest are the ones who get captured?
Right. So Frankie and Robin are alone, and they're pretty strong, but they're not monsters, so they have to deal with Talaran on their own. And it's cool to see, because this arc has a lot of, like, team up attacks, especially during the Oars fight. So it's neat to see, the Straw Hats are unified, so they're working together well too, and it's cool. And Robin's got her wings, and like, like, I love the bit where they, like, Frankie, like, stretches his arm, and, like, he runs into the wall, but Robin's fine because she jumped off of him. Like, yeah, very rude, Robin. And of course Brook falls in. So Lola attacks Nami, and they get along really quickly because Nami insists that she is a man, and Chopper's like, "Oh my god, I didn't even know." Chopper. Oh my god, he's so gullible. Oh yeah, so the trio sneaks into Kumasi, I think. Yeah, they went with the Japanese name, which is fine. I've heard alternate translations as Bearsy because it's Kuma means bear, so he's bear. Either one's fine. I don't know. I've talked about names before.
See, what was kind of interesting is how that there was the joke with Kumasi that, like, oh, don't talk, your voice isn't cute or whatever. And so, like, then that becomes a plot point. Like, now they're hiding inside the bear, and the bear bear can't talk because
every time he tries to explain that he's got fucking intruders inside of him, Perona's just like, Kumasi, just shut up.
And then Perona's like, wait, you were hiding the Straw Hats.
Why didn't you say something earlier? And, like, Kumasi gets no fucking respect. Very sad.
I also like the little bit, a little before that, because I was kind of falling behind, where Absalom tries to kidnap Nami, and then she uses her, like, thunder charge, and then he's like, this feeling, it's like I've been struck by lightning. Is this love?
See, well, because, like, obviously he's supposed to be, like, contrasted with Sanji.
Yeah.
And as we see during their fight, and I will discuss that, it's pretty important, but, like, that's a very Sanji line, like, that one specifically is very something Sanji would say. Now that you mentioned that, I thought about that. Anyway, Brook comes up to save Robin and Frankie when they're in trouble.
Absalom, he attacks the penguin dude, which is Sanji, and then they end up having a fight later, so it's foreshadowing.
That's right. You're right. I didn't think about that. I was skipping ahead. Brook's fighting style is cool because he's like super fast because he's light and he's a fencer. Well, because it's also neat because he's a swordsman like Zoro, but he has a completely different fighting style. So he still stands out, and it's neat.
Yeah, I do think that's cool because when he was initially introduced as like the humming swordsman, I was like, oh, so we have another swordsman here. But then like he does have a different fighting style, so it's not just swordsman again. Like he's a different kind of swordsman.
Right. So anyway, that having saved Frankie and Robin, he explains the weakness of salt, and how he found it, or just in general, he talks about the shadows and the zombies. Because he was trying to keep them out of it earlier, but now he knows. But now you're here. Might as well explain it. So, I suppose that's fine. We find out that because like the shadows they're basically the soul, so they have like your personality and techniques. But there's also a bit more to it as we see during the Hogback fight, because as we see with Sindri, like the soul never really leaves the body. I mean, I guess it's left ambiguous as to what you take from it, but that's kind of what I took from that, is that like there's still some of the original Sindri in there, or maybe even just the shadow is connecting to either way. So I don't know. It's a tricky existential subject. So. So anyway, he explains everything, and we finally see Moria as all the lieutenants are assembled. And I definitely have things to say about Moria. I'll just wait till later because like there's like 2 pages that completely contextualize his character, and it's really good. But for now, he's just like, he's given a bounty slightly higher or a former bounty slightly higher than what Luffy's at now, and he also has his catchphrase of "you do it" because he's a fat lazy dude. I remember people were trying to connect the 7 warlords to the 7 deadly sins because, of course, and I think if was what Oda, the author, was trying to do, then this guy's sloth for sure. But I don't remember if that's the case, because like, what's Mihawk's sin? I have no idea.
Because I was gonna say, would crocodile be greed?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, and we obviously haven't seen all of them, so.
Yeah, I guess I would need to actually see all the warlords first before I could really start.
They've also changed. Like, is Blackbeard replacing Crocodile's sin, or is he like what's going on? Like, yeah. So I don't think it's interesting to think about, but I don't think there's like a deliberate like 1-to-1 for every one of them, or if there's even anything like to take from that. It's just a neat association. But yeah. So Moria takes Luffy's shadow.
I should be reborn as a slug, or a sea slug.
Frankie asks about Brook, but we don't see the answer until later.
I like how
or what's up?
Okay, I guess it's not. Maybe it already happened a while back, but there was like, he's making one of his skull jokes, but like it's at one point like, I don't know, like it's. At some point, Frankie beats him up for making jokes because like it's also like concerning the fate of the rest of the crew. Like, oh, I didn't die when my shadow was taken. Oh wait, I am dead.
So Brook runs into Ryoma, who has his shadow in his body.
I also do like there's a little moment before they separate when Frankie is like, you might as well answer one more question, Brook, and then like again, it's another thing that's kind of like held in suspense. Like we find out what it is later, but like some characters know things that we don't.
Right. Well, even after that, you get Frankie crying like a baby because he heard it, and then of course now we know exactly why. But like, it's just because it's Frankie being Frankie, and he's good. But yeah, Oars wakes up. He has Luffy's free-spirited personality, so he just goes fucking nuts and starts wrecking everything because whatever.
Because he will be the Pirate King.
Yes, the rotten Pirate King, because he's dead. He's a zombie. And having seen Hogback's like true what he's doing, Chopper completely disagrees that he's actually anything decent because of the nature of zombies. Then Absalom manages to successfully kidnap Nami. One thing I find funny about Oars is that like, because I guess we find out later, but he's like this, huge, this legendary monster from 500 years ago. He died by like freezing to death because he wasn't wearing clothes on a cold country, on a cold island. Like, I mean, okay, yeah, sure. It's just fucking dumbass.
Then Chopper and Usopp, they get surrounded by zombies, and then Frankie and Robin show up to save the day.
Yeah. It's cool.
I guess another thing that kind of keeps me invested in this arc is that, like, for most of the time, like, up until, I guess, the very end, the final fight, there's always, like, multiple things going on at any one given time. So, like, even if one thing isn't super interesting, there's something else. So, like, if you're not super interested in what's going on with, you know, Nami, Usopp, and Chopper, then you've got, you've got Luffy's group going on, and then, like, even that gets kind of fractured further. So then, like...
Right.
So, like, here, when you... and then you can have it all converge again, right. Like, when Robin and Frankie are able to show up and rescue the other ones.
Right. After another fracture happened with Nami getting kidnapped. And, of course, while that's going on, Brook is running into Ryuma. We're seeing flashbacks of their first meeting when Ryuma beat the shit out of Brook, and... The afro comes up because, like, Ryuma's insisting that it weakens him as a swordsman, but he needs it. And as we find out, he needs to be recognized. And
it's another instance of Oda taking a goofy thing and making it serious.
Yep.
Because, like, it starts off as like, oh, wait, you're a skeleton, but you still have hair? Oh, I have very strong follicles.
Yeah, he's got strong... Yeah, his strong hair is strong. Yep. Oh, yeah, So yeah, they start their fight for a bit, and then the other Straw Hats find Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy at the ship and wake them up by with their desires, their stupid desires. Look, there's a beautiful female sword master carrying lots of meat, and Sanji's like, beautiful female meat sword master, like, and Chopper's like, we're fucked, it's over. Oh, and then so now that they're basically together except for Brook and Nami, they sort of reconvene, explain everything. Frankie talks about what Brook was telling them about, how he has, like he was so lonely he wanted to die and was, but he has, one last purpose, a friend he needs to meet, a promise he needs to fulfill. Laboon.
Laboon! It's back!
Yep.
That one got me. I was like, oh my god!
Yeah, you sent me the panel with with I think your comment with it was explodes, because you just you did a tweet and it was like Oda exists, and you're like, is this foreshadowing for something in One Piece, like where it's just like you're seeing every little thing and it's like maybe that'll be a thing, and then shit like this happens. And sure enough, if you go back to volume 12, you can see people with musical instruments in the crowd. I don't think there's specifically one that looks like Brook, but like there's several musicians in the crowd, and as we see, that becomes like that's a whole thing with that pirate crew, and the captain had a cowboy hat, as we see. So it's like I definitely think he planned like Brook at that point, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't remember if like Laboon liking music had been established back then.
That I don't think so. Just the fact that there were musicians on the crew, and I think there's like a page of one of Oda like his sort of like draft for the, like, actually at this point there's no spoilers on it, but it's like basically one of his drafts for the crew from earlier in the series, and like the first 5, like Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Sanji, and Usopp looked about the same, but the other 3, Chopper, he was still a reindeer, but he was like bigger, like a normal. He looked much more like a regular reindeer. I think he smoked too. And there was a skeleton, but instead of an afro, he had a cowboy hat. So I think that the captain might have been. Maybe I'm just completely misremembering. So maybe at first that captain was supposed to be the one who joined, but he sort of changed his mind about his design stuff. So he made that. So he had because he actually, like, I liked how he like answered a question. But also explain it in a way that makes Brook make sense, because Crocus even said like that. Oh, I heard that crew left the Grand Line. They tried to escape through the Calm Belt, and then we see in the flashback Yorkie gets the plague and he leaves with some of the crew through the Calm Belt. So that was like how Crocus came to think that the Rumbar pirates escaped the Grand Line. When no, that's not exactly what happened. They something else happened to the Rumbar pirates too. So, yeah. And it also does kind of come back to the whole promises thing, like, because, like, of course, Brook, they had the promise, and Brook's still trying to fulfill it. It's just taking a little while. So, yeah.
Listen, there are 2 things we need to get back: meat, Nami, and Shadows. That's 3. I didn't think one of those would make the list. Yeah, but I also like.
I mean, he's not wrong because they stole their food and they need to not die. So
yeah, that's another kind of cool thing about this arc is that you not only do have the pressing matter that get the shadows so the characters don't die, but also like Nami gets kidnapped, so there are like multiple motivations for characters to do things. Like Luffy wants the meat. Sanji doesn't want Nami to get married, so he's all fired up.
Yeah, so they have their different like reasons for and they even explain like have their own unique motivate like for like splitting off because like Chopper also wants to find Hogback and because he's a shithead. So they Brook, they don't know where he is. So yeah, I like how they all come up with their own thing for why they go to where they go.
And there are even points like when this could have been used as an excuse to like have all the characters fight the people who had their shadows, but that's not exactly how it plays out.
Actually, I don't like. I think the only one who fights their shadow holder is Luffy, and even then, like he's fighting Oars with the entire crew. Like Sanji and Zoro's shadows end up against Chopper and Robin, and then Brook's shadow Zoro is ultimately the one who beats him. So it's like. Yeah, like pretty much almost no one. And even then with Luffy, everyone fought Oars. So, yeah, it didn't matter who Oars' shadow has. So everyone would have fought him anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, it definitely does. It doesn't turn into mirror matches, which is something he could have done, but he chose not to. So, yeah, sure. I'm just looking at this panel of, like, it's after Brook and Ryuma fight for a point, and Frankie's just crying because now he knows more about Laboon because of the other straw, and he's crying even harder now. He's like, I love both the skeleton and the whale. Like, so good. Frankie's good.
What I also like is that, with Brook specifically, is that Luffy had, like, for such a long time now been saying, like, for our next crew member, maybe we should get a musician. Because, like, even when they were talking about getting a doctor, like Chopper, Luffy says, like, the next crew member should be a musician. And, like, now we finally...
Yeah, he's always been pushing for it since... And now that, they even mention it when Brook joins, like, the long-awaited musician.
But now I don't know who would be next in the crew, because, like, the musician's been filled. What else have they... I don't think they've really talked about anything else that, like, this is a necessity, which, like, a necessity could come up later.
Well, yeah, it's, like, because they're functional, but, like, at the same time, it's, like, they needed a carpenter, but, like, Usopp was able to sort of function, so the question, knowing other potential Straw Hats, like, I can say, like, here's a role that like, other characters fill in for, but there's no one dedicated. And the other thing with Oda is that when a role is needed, he'll make sure it's known that it's needed. Like with Mary, they didn't need a carpenter until Mary was literally falling apart. They didn't need a cook until they ran into Johnny and Yosaku, or Yosaku suffering from scurvy. Like, Nami impressed her navigation skills like really early into like, and of course Luffy and Zoro were just like sailing. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So it's like. Yeah, so they obviously don't need, like, they're able to function as a ship currently without any missing parts. So the question, but if you were to introduce a new crew member with a certain skill, then there would have to be something they were lacking in, and he would make sure to impress that. What are they lacking in? Before that happens. So it's just how it works.
So the next member like wouldn't be. Like, it doesn't have, like, I don't want to say that, like, Brook had all this build-up, but, like, I don't know, the musician spot, like, it had been set up for a while. It's a minor thing, but, like, now I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if another Straw Hat appears, you did say that Oda would make it known that, like, hey, we need this member to fill this spot. So by then I'll probably know, but, like, as of now, I don't really know where we'd go.
Well, the other thing is, like, because you were at Anime Expo, and if you look at the marketing for the crew at this point, it's still, like, Luffy hasn't gotten his 10 members, but at the same time, like, the marketing for the crew is still pretty much these characters. If you go around and see stuff, like, it's still these characters. So, like, I won't say if there's been any potential crewmates or not since.
And even then, I didn't recognize Frankie, so...
Right.
If there are any more, maybe I didn't notice.
Yeah, so, but anyway, so yeah, they've convened and they are ready to head out. And Luffy, of course, he's like, Moria's the strongest. Guess I gotta fight Moria. Like, he just knows. So yeah, that's
But he also phrases it in like a smart way. Like Moria's in control of the shadows, so if I beat Moria, then the shadows return.
Right. But as we find out, it doesn't exactly work that way because Moria, like, even if he got knocked out and beaten up, like, which is kind of pretty interesting and definitely factors into how it all gets resolved. Like, just beating up Moria isn't going to get back their shadows. Like, they can beat him all. He has to give them up, pretty much. And we will discuss that because that's interesting. Especially because, like, I've been watching Toku lately, and like they'll do it like with their episodic bad guys. Is the episodic bad guys will be causing, like, oh, these people's souls are gone. Oh, they're sick with a poison and they'll die. Whenever the monster gets beaten, though, whatever bad shit they were causing just goes away. So it's like. Oda could have easily done something like that with Moria, but he decided not to, and the reason why is interesting. So yeah.
Also, something I noticed in this stretch of chapters, which I felt kind of dumb afterwards, because like Oda pointed it out in the SBS because someone had a question about it. But like Robin's now referring to the crew members by their names. Like she wasn't.
That's right.
That was consistently a thing she was not doing. Like she would call Nami Navigator or Sanji Chef or
Yes. I think Zoro was swordsman, or I think in the Japanese it might have been Mr. Bushido. Like she says it like something san, so like sniper san, or Bushido san, like something like that. So it's like, so it would be probably like, I don't know. It depends. They could localize it however they want. But you're right. And there's another like smaller thing that I think is really interesting in contrast to how she acted before. But we'll get to that when we come to it.
But like it's starting to feel more that like Robin's now like actually part of a crew. Like this is she's actually like, because before she wasn't really. That's why she wasn't actually referring to people by name, because like she was gonna cast them aside.
Yeah, or she was preparing herself to to eventually to inevitably lose them, like she had with so many groups before. Like it was a way of sort of like distancing herself from the future pain. But then, and even then, even because she did like cast aside, like she did leave the crew. Like she intended to, but this time it was different because she did it to save them rather than just to expect them to be destroyed. Like with Baroque Works, she was fucking acting against Baroque Works. She was not gonna refer to any of those fuckers by name, not even aside the fact that they're a secret organization. So yeah, like she wanted them got down. So yeah, but obviously the strats are different. So
I just like that Oda pays attention to those. Like, Oda has his inconsistencies at times, but like I like how he pays attention to the little minute human details. It's cool.
Yeah.
I also like this panel where Chopper is like, you make it sound so easy. We're going up against one of the 7 warlords of the sea. And Luffy's like, oh, it's all right. It's just like Crocodile. And Chopper's like, he almost killed you.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing, is because like even though Luffy does have he can get serious now, but at the same time, like he's still kind of looking down on the warlord of the sea. And sure enough, when they fight, like honestly, like if Luffy doesn't use his gears at first, and as a result, Moria gets away. And he's able to get inside Oars, so it's like Luffy, like it's Luffy's arrogance, it's still there. Like it's still a flaw that's causing trouble. So yeah, and of course it still hasn't been fully addressed, but it's still there. That's the thing. Like he still looks down on people. He's still being a cocky little shit. Even though he's just this up and coming newbie who's doing a lot of crazy shit for a newbie, but still. So yeah. Moria's group is also responding to like everyone's maneuvering into place for the climax, and Oars is just fucking around.
And it does help that this is a bit of a shorter arc because especially after we just came off of Water 7 again,
a
like
3-part
it's like
arc,
wow,
yeah. It's
already like it all comes together very succinctly, which especially coming off that big epic, I think helps. Like, I talked about that with Bleach. Bleach had so many, like, long ongoing arcs that I was like, when Fullbring happened, I was like, yeah, something. Like, even though it's, like, 60 chapters or whatever, compared to, like, 300 chapters with Arrancar, like,
yeah,
breathing room. It's nice to break it up a little bit.
Yeah, so not just tonally, but also, lengthwise, that is nice. Because I know even Oda does even do that later, because there's, like, he does a lot, like, even, like, Alabasta went straight into Skypiea, but there's still Jaya there, to break it up a little bit. Like, it's not like going from the big-ass Alabasta to the big-ass Skypiea. No, there's a breather in there of Jaya. So, like, lengthwise, so it's cool. So anyway, again, there's a lot going on. Oh yeah, the fight. Yeah, the fights start to break out. Hogback and Sindri end up against Chopper and Robin as Luffy runs by to meet Moria. The others run into Perona. So it's like, I've said that I like Davy Backfight. Maybe I just have a soft spot for Davy Backfight, and also that's also reactive because of the shit it gets because of how the anime fucks it up. But like, this part, I fucking died. Because, like, the negative hollows hits everyone, and Usopp's like, it's over, and everyone's like, else's want to die. And then Usopp recovers, purifies a bunch of hollows, he gets hit again. He's already negative!
Yes! And it's another one of the Oda faces.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's like, the, my powers don't work on this guy, holy shit, face. Like... or at least it should be, because I think it does show up again in different contexts, but it's like, that's what it should have been, because it's like, both instances are like, my powers don't work, what the fuck, and, because it is the same, it's very similar to the Eneru face.
But and I love it, because it's just like, it's such a goofy thing, but like, it's played up like, seriously. Like, I mean, the expression's goofy, but like, her reaction is genuine, like, my powers don't work, what do I do?
Right. Well, I even like how later when they start fighting, she's just like, you gotta be positive, and she gives a thumbs up. Like,
yeah. Yeah, like the zombies are like, cheer up.
Right, like... Because Usopp's always the doomsayer, the one who imagines the worst. So he gets hit, and he's able to resist it. So it's perfect.
There's also the part where she uses her attack, and it like backfires on her because he's so negative.
Yeah, like the ghosts go through and they become depressed. Usopp depresses them. Like, I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's funny. Man. So anyway,
I also like these conflicts because it does the thing that I liked with Water 7, where like they start off in one place and then like the conflicts will play into each other. So like when Oars destroys the bridge, like people, what is it? Who is it? Sanji and Usopp? Are they the ones who fall? Yeah. And then they like end up.
Sanji might have fallen because he has somewhere else to be. But because I do know that Frankie rebuilt the bridge, and like later on, Nami is running down the bridge.
And it's like, oh, what a nice bridge.
She's like, hey, why does this part look different? Because, I also love the guy because Frankie, like, built it with, like, hold on, like, 30 seconds, I gotta add more detail, and it, like, looks already super elaborate, and it's just, like, fucking Frankie, like, he's so good at his job.
But because like they start off and there's like the group of 5 and the group of 2, and then the 2 fall down, and then it's 4 and 3, and then Oars is there, and it's like, oh, we're gonna fight Oars, but no, actually he's gonna go off and goof off, so now we can split up again. And is dynamic the word? Things are malleable. Things are changing.
Yeah, that's the way to see it. To say it, I think, yeah.
Because I don't want to say that like one-on-one fights are just like inherently bad, but it's a nice to break up the formula every now and then.
Right. Well, because even here you have Robin and Chopper versus it's a 2-on-2. Well, even 2-on-4 if you count the zombies. So it's like it's not just the rest are pretty much 1-on-1 though. And Oars is like a fucking everyone versus Oars. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that, because I remember in the past you said you've like I don't know you.
Yes, I knew you would ask this question.
Yeah, summoning fights and things with big things involved. So, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I guess first we get like sort of the resolution to Brook versus Ryuma, because Ryuma is just stronger because he has a stronger body and they both have the same technique. So Brook isn't able to match up even after he's tried so hard to get stronger. But
and then my favorite edgy boy Zoro shows up.
Yep. And what I thought was neat is that like Zoro, he doesn't even want to fight to help Brook. He's just like, I want that sword, and also this seems like a good fight.
What I do think is also really cool is that like Zoro's going up against a character who we even said when we briefly discussed monsters that like, the original samurai looked a lot like Zoro, but now because like Oda has redesigned that character, so like it doesn't look
he
like
looks completely different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, he's like the zombie skeleton, but he's also got like, so like, yeah, it's enough to like change the design, while also still keeping that like swordsman connection.
Well, because like obviously like things happen in his life after that story because he's got a different sword, he's got different clothes. Like his hair is kind of similar, but it's white. Like that's the thing. He lived basically to some. Like I don't know if that's because he's a zombie or if he just lived to old age. Because I think Sindri like in the anime they made her hair the same color, which would I guess would imply that Hogback preserved her body closer to her death. Well, whereas with Ryuma, so I feel like Ryuma, like he lived, like he's been buried for like a good while, so like a couple centuries, and I guess he was old. So well, that's the other thing is that the bodies get replaced too. Like when asked on the SBS if that lion had if that was Absalom's original face, and Oda just specifically didn't say yes or no. Like was that Absalom's face or was that some other guy's face on the lion?
I also think it is interesting that a character from Monsters is like that was the one shot that because that to me felt like out of all the one shots felt the most Oda, felt the most One Piece. So like I do think it's kind of interesting that it's a character from there that gets sort of retroactively made canon into the One Piece lore.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. And
so like if you have like I also like how he's integrated because he's just a little side villain here, like he's just a character to be defeated. But also like if you've read Monsters, I mean like if you haven't read Monsters then it still works and you don't need to read Monsters to get it. But it kind of I don't know, it feels like the character carries a little more weight because Oda did a thing, like he made a reference to a thing he once did and it's like, "Oh, hey, that's cool. I recognize the reference."
Right. And then I think he even mentions in the SBS that, like, Ryuma was the strong, like, because he was king. He was the strongest swordsman in the world at the time, even. So it's also interesting to kind of see how, like, the new generation has surpassed the old. Like, Zoro is strong. Well, because, I mean, at the same time, he's not fighting with his original fighting style. Like, he's got his old strength, but he's using Brook's fighting style because it's, like...
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's kind of the thing is, like Zoro even, like, wants to preserve, like, Ryuma's honor because he's, because Oda's stance on the whole thing seems to be, like, the soul's existing in another body is, like, some abomination. Like, so Ryuma, even though he's got, like, he's basically being, like, corrupted because he's not fighting within his own personality or his own fighting style. Yeah. He's some mix between two different things. So yeah.
Yeah. So I liked how Zoro had said, I'll keep this sword, but we'll pretend that this fight never happened. Like
right. He wants to keep his like legacy, like because he didn't really beat Ryuma. He beat some abomination that happened to have Ryuma's body. So yeah.
Zoro's so fucking cool. This fight was good. I like the core. I mean, like, I know I'm jumping around, but, the story jumps around, so I'll just give my thoughts on this fight now. I like the choreography in this fight, how there's, like, they end up, like, destroying the roof, and so they're, like, fighting on a falling roof, so, like, they're trying to, like, maintain their footing and also, still have the sword battle. It was interesting. I liked it.
Also, I guess I want to point something out, because some people have still been, like, in the past, I've seen the argument, like, how does Sanji do Diablo Jambe? It doesn't make sense. But I'm like... Zoro makes fire friction. That's all. You don't need to think about. It's fucking One Piece. You don't need to think about it, okay? Like, Zoro burns Ryuma. I almost said alive, but that's not true. So, yeah.
Oh, so that's why he was on fire. I didn't know really what was going on there.
Yeah, it's just Zoro just fire because swords make fire. Didn't you know, Mathwiz, swords make fire? That's a thing that they could do.
Yes, I see.
I feel like there's more to say about the fight, but maybe I was tired when I read it. I'd like to say more because it was cool, but I mean, I don't particularly care for how he does, like, the flash forward beforehand, where it's, like, Zoro falls and Ryuma's standing on top, and Brook's like, I've never seen it. Like, it's framed in a way that makes it seem like Zoro somehow lost. But no, he didn't actually lose.
That definitely felt like this is the chapter hook to keep people... Yeah. It was for the weekly readers.
I've never been a fan of that, even reading it weekly and rereading it. It's just like I've said before that I think Zoro versus Ryuma might be my least favorite fight of Zoro's outside of the podcast. But I'm not. I don't know. It's okay. Like, and I also feel like there might be more to take from it from like the Brook side of it. But I just need to think on it more. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So anyway, Luffy fights Moria for a bit, and like I already talked about that because he's not taking more. Well, because like Moria isn't taking Luffy seriously either. Like, he's just like sitting on his back and letting his shadow fight Luffy. Luffy's gets a little mad and goes from underneath, and then Moria ends up running away. And, like, that's it. That's pretty much the end of their first encounter. And then, of course, Sanji rescues Nami and ends up against Absalom. So yeah, I guess we could talk about Sanji versus Absalom now. You've said that Sanji might be your least favorite character, but also you're not so sure.
Now, to be fair, I said of the Straw Hats, not my least favorite character in the story.
Sorry, I worded it wrong. You're correct. Least favorite of the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are the only characters. What are you talking about? Yeah, that'd be weird to hate Sanji more than like fucking Morgan or Absalom. Like, so, what did you have to think about Sanji versus Absalom? Because as a fight, like, it's just kind of Sanji, like, they're fighting each other, and we do learn a bit more about Sanji and his desires, but yeah, I have my things to say about it. But I want you to say stuff first.
See, I could easily read this and get all cynical, like, oh, it's two men fighting over a woman, like, bleh.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I enjoyed this fight. I thought it was fun. Like the goofy, they're both like, you have the zombie people, bystanders were like spectating and providing commentary, which is maybe a little weird, but it was, it kind of worked with the jokes, I guess. Like, they're both like they'll say, oh, one character's pervy, but we're like, wait, no, so is the other character, and like they're both equally, like, they Oda recognizes, like, because the thing about their attitude is that, or for someone like Sanji, like with chivalry, like there are pros and cons to it. So like Oda recognizes that, like, there is some negative elements, like, him being, like he said, like, oh, I had another dream. I wanted the invisible fruit so I could peep on the girl's bathroom, and like, so like that's a negative side of, Sanji's
it's like
women obsession.
Someone
but, like,
else pointed out.
I don't know. It works. It's funny because, like, in this context.
The chivalry and the perviness are like two different parts of
his
character.
Yeah, those are two different aspects.
Right. So, well, because like that's the thing is, like, because Sanji, he doesn't hit women, as he's mentioned. And
that's different from being a pervert, definitely.
Right. Well, because, like, okay, here's the thing, because, like, obviously the contrast between the two is that, like, yeah, Sanji is a pervert, but I have things to say about that. I'll mention in a bit, but like, like, he, at the end of the fight, he calls Absalom an animal, because like Absalom he's like a pervert to the point, like, women here's how I said it, like a beast's bride should only be another beast, because Absalom, like, he licked Robin, he attacked Robin in the bathroom, he's basically forcing her hand in marriage. Like, he treats women like just kind of like objects of admiration, like he doesn't treat them as like humans. So it's like, yeah, Sanji is a pervert. He adores like attractive looking women, but like the one panel I really like is when he's like he's holding Nami up as Absalom's kicking like he's trying to protect her, and like Absalom's fighting him. Like, he doesn't care about like Nami's safety necessarily.
Yeah, because there's even a point where like he has the bazooka arms, and Sanji's like, take those off. Like, don't you get it? If you fire those in the direction of Nami, you're gonna hurt Nami. And he's like, so like he has Absalom has like the perviness without the chivalry that kind of redeems Sanji to an extent.
And so which is why he's like, he's one who will like harm a woman, so to speak. Anyway, so like, to view it in the context of the story, like, yeah, Sanji isn't really seen as bad. Like, he's a pervert, but that's not a bad thing, because again, he has the chivalry. But again, there's also the matter of how like I've talked about this before, since Naruto even, of how perviness is seen in Japan. Because like, from what I've gathered just from seeing like anime and manga stuff, it's seen as very childish. Like, Oda even has a quote from an interview where he says that he hopes children connect to Sanji's character because he's a pervert. And like, see, and that's the thing, I don't agree with that at all, like, on a moral level. Like, it's the peeping thing, like, in Japan, I think that's seen as childish. Like, look at Gurren Lagann. Like, there's like a whole episode where they try to peep in the women's bath.
Yeah.
Like, Sanji's like, he's like, I want to do it, damn it. Like, but it's seen as like childish and innocent, and I don't agree with that, because it's like violating a woman's, privacy, and that's not
the
cool.
thing with Absalom is that, like, he takes that to like he takes that further. Like, he is more of like a stalker, molester like person, because like he like kidnapped Nami, and he like drugged her or whatever, so that like she's asleep. Like, he's trying to marry her while she's asleep. Like, he is trying to like take away like her free will and just use her as like an object. Whereas like Sanji, like, even if Sanji is does still have those pervy desires, he is not going to go out of his way to force Nami to marry him. Like, even if that is something that he may want.
Like,
or
he would love that. He would love that more than anything, but he's not going to, like, it's always going to be, like, he's never touched Nami. He's, like flown around her, like, but he'll never actually, like I remember with the Khalifa fight, she was like, oh, you want to grab my key? Go ahead and take it. And then he's like, with pleasure. Like, he's going, like, she said, go for it. Went for it. And then he got his ass beat because
See, yeah, Sanji. I guess that's the difference. Sanji cares about consent.
Right. But except for the peeping thing, which I disagree with morally, but I don't know, like, fully where, like, from what I'm gathered, like I said, it's supposed to be something childish, and I guess, like, it's a quote-unquote victimless crime. Like, I don't, like, again, personally, I don't agree with that, but again, I don't fully know where Japan stands on it as the whole. Like, from what I've seen, like, there's that, like, it's also a fictional character. Like, I don't believe that fictional ideas cause real harm. I've never thought that. So, like, anyone who justifies their actions because a fictional character did that is deranged, either way I see it. Like, if they did something wrong, like, oh, I'm murdered because they deserve it, because I'm saving him. Ohm wanted to save people by like, no, you're fucking, what the fuck, dude? And same with even just peeping, like, no, don't fucking do that, because Sanji's cool. Like, no, that's stupid. What's wrong with you? But, like, so yeah, it's like, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, is like, I disagree with this, like, on a moral level, but I'm able to suspend that and understand, like, the author's point of view. And, like, yeah, Sanji is, like, clearly contrasted with Absalom here. Like, yeah, the author doesn't see that as bad. So, like, which I think is key for understanding the story, even if you don't agree with it. So, yeah, and this will turn at, like I said, there's more to talk about later. But yeah, the fight is fine.
Yeah, this is part of why I don't want to give a full reading on Sanji yet, because I don't know. Like, there's obviously more to his character. So, like, even if I say he's, like, my least favorite Straw Hat member, probably at present, I still don't really, like, outright dislike him. And, like, when you see him juxtaposed against Absalom here, like, it goes to show that, like, Sanji could be a lot worse. Like, there are redeeming aspects to Sanji that someone like Absalom doesn't have.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say I do like this fight. It actually kind of makes me appreciate Sanji's character a little bit more. Not to say that, like, I mean, like, if I'm going to have some sort of a problem with Sanji, I'm just going to have that. But yeah, like, this fight was, I don't know, this fight was good, and it. See, like, it's a nuanced subject in the first place. So, like, determining where I stand on it with Sanji, it's not as simple as, like, oh, it is either good or bad. It is, like, somewhere there are, like, elements to it.
Right. So yeah, I definitely was, like, looking forward to talking about this one, because it is like it is a subject, like, again, I'm not fully on the author's side with it, or Japan's side, if that is the case, but, I'll still, like, try to understand the story, so whatever. So anyway, then we get to another fight, which this might be my favorite one of these fights. The Oars and Moria stuff was also good, but, like, I've always liked Usopp's character, and Perona's power is really fun. Like,
no, yeah, I like this fight. I like it a lot.
So yeah, Usopp versus Perona. And actually, this is also Usopp's first fight since he got his new, because he didn't really get any fights in Enies Lobby, because he just got his ass beat by Jabra. And
even then, like, the mechanics of this fight, because it's another one of those, like, there's kind of, like, a mystery going on. Like, it's not just Usopp overpowers a person, because that's not who Usopp is. Like, there's strategy involved, and, like, you have to figure out, well, why can't I hit her? What changed? Why is she not afraid of me now?
Yeah, honestly, like, the fight of the mystery of it, the sort of, like, as he figures out his powers, this is probably the closest One Piece has gotten to, like, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and how, like, the fights, because JoJo fights also kind of work like this, where they're under attack from a mysterious power, and they have to figure out how it works and its weaknesses, and that's pretty much what Usopp does here.
And then they figure out, and at the very end, it's like, no, I was actually in control the whole time. Or at least I think that's how I've heard it called. Although that's not really the case here with Usopp.
Yeah, well, because, and also, like, because Usopp also has his, like, tricks and strategy. And his lies, like, he does the whole ending bit with the giant hammer and the sticky star.
Yeah, I like how he said it is, like, you can't beat me in a battle of, like, negativity and lies. Like, I'm the wrong opponent.
Yeah, well, the great part about it is, like, how they're contrasted, because, like, how Usopp defeats Perona is fear. Like Perona basically isn't, like, she's being, deceptive, and, like, she causes negativity, but she can't take it herself. Like, she acts through this, like, this, because that's the thing, her power is really strong because like she can perceive everything perfectly through her like out of body soul, and she can still use her powers, like she can still summon ghosts, her powerful ghosts, like she's still really strong even with just her like out of just her regular body, or not her regular body, the opposite of her regular body. I'm getting confused. And then she has minions too coming in, so but she's not able to take out what she dishes, kind of like she makes fear and pessimism, but she's not able to take it when Usopp throws it back at her, which is. And I also really like the moment with the Sniper King mask.
Yes.
Because he's got a fucking split personality. Like he's talking to Sniper King.
Yes.
In his head. So, and why I think this is so good, so like not only do you have like the power aspect of superheroes, but here you have like Usopp faking it to make it, because like he's basically like lying about how like brave and courageous he is because he's so negative normally. Like he's like because that's the thing, is if you're negative and like I remember hearing about this around the Olympics in like the mid 1900s. Russian trainers, like what they kind of figured out is that like in order to win, you have to visualize victory. Like you have to imagine yourself winning. And so Usopp, if he is imagining the negative, he'll never win. So he kind of uses the Sniper King to sort of like, because it's he's fighting a character with she can't be touched. She's got powerful minions. She's got a dangerous fruit power that's fucking him up. Like as Usopp, he can't visualize victory, but as Sniper King, as a hero, he can pretend to visualize victory. He could the Sniper King mask is so fucking brilliant, honestly. Like, and just how much it adds to Usopp's character, I fucking love it. And of course, yeah, because he's able to do that, he what's great is after that, he doesn't need the mask. Like once he he busts open Perona's sanctuary, he's just Usopp for the rest of the fight. Like it's cool. And he just fights. And
no, this arc is really, really good. Because now, like, you're talking about this, and like we just had our discussion on the Sanji fight, so like I'm realizing different things about like the characters and how they play into the fight and how all the elements of the arc. It's so good.
The characters are so good, and these fights are neat and interesting, and like that's why I wish I had more to say about the Zoro one, because Brook also factors into it. So I feel like I should be like what separates these characters, but I had to think more about it. So and I couldn't figure it out. Maybe someone in the comments will. But what were you gonna say?
Well, what I also like about this fight is, again, it's another one of those fights where like it looks at the negative sort of character traits of, in this case, Usopp, but like he's going up against another character who also, like, through the negative hollows and whatnot, like also represents those negative traits, but there is one trait like that they don't share. Like that's where Usopp, through courage, like that's how Usopp is able to win, because like he beats her through fear. Like the cockroaches were toys. The 10-ton hammer was a balloon.
Yeah, Usopp never would have like if it was in the reverse situation, Usopp would have been afraid of the balloon, but he wouldn't have fainted. No, he would have been like, oh, that happened. Okay, you tricked me, you bastard. Like that's what Usopp would have done. He definitely would. I don't know if he would have been grossed out by the cockroaches, because he wasn't grossed out by the spiders. So it's just like, yeah, Usopp's able to take what he can do, but Perona can't. So very sad. She gets beaten, and it's good.
And it ties into Usopp's overall character arc about courage. Oh my god, it's so good.
Yes, that's why it's probably one of my favorites from this arc, and I've always liked it. Like even before I knew about themes, I liked it for just like the strategy elements and just like how it's good. It's a good fight.
No, yeah, because that's where I started our little conversation here, and then like you went in here talking about all what it means, and I'm like, holy crap,
themes. Oh, we're not done yet. I thought we were done for some reason, but no. We have Chopper and Robin versus Hogback, Sindri, Jigoro, and Dogpen. So like as a fight, like it's probably the weakest, because honestly they're barely even fighting. Like they mostly just talk. Like this is kind of like Naruto versus Neji almost, where they're just talking for most of the fight. I mean there's still some good stuff, like interactions. Like I like how they sort of trick Jigoro and Dogpen to jumping off,
because they're the shadows of Zoro and Sanji, and yeah, because right, Hogback's an idiot.
Right. But like, and obviously the conflict here is that like, Hogback, he even says that he doesn't care about people. He was only interested in doing doctor stuff because he got money and fame from it. And like that's what got him closer to Sindri, the object of his desires. So it's like, he's like, he's a doctor who doesn't care about people, and Chopper is obviously a doctor who cares very much about people. Like, I think even, like, obviously Hiruluk, like, he wants to cause like, I think early on, like, Hogback was talking about how, like, oh yeah, I want to bring people dead back to life because, it'll make people happier, and Chopper, like, connected to that because, like, people being happier, healing the heart, that was what Hiruluk was all about. So it's like, of course he'd connect to that, but then, no, Hogback's a fucking monster. And that's why it's so good, because, like, see, Chopper has, like, such low self-confidence, but even he is able to recognize this guy as a true, I almost wish he called him an outright monster, but, like, because that would just drive it home more. But, like, yeah, Hogback is a monster, and Chopper recognizes that. Like, like, this guy's worse than, like, he's not a doctor, even, he's just, what was it? Or, yeah, Hogback even says, is like, you have no reason to punish me as a doctor because our ordeal is deferred, but Chopper's like, no, I don't even consider you a doctor. Like, I don't know, it's neat
so
to see Chopper
he's like
having,
the inverse of Chopper, where, like, Chopper is quote unquote, as people would call him, a monster on the outside, but, like, on the inside he's good. But, like, on the flip side, you look at someone like Hogback, he's a monster on the inside, even though he appears to be, a very accomplished doctor, but, like, on the inside he's trash. So this is also good, even though it's not much of a fight. But it's the ideas are good.
And so, well, because it's like, Hogback's, because, like, okay, some interesting mechanics of the shadows is, like, because we see in this fight, like, Sindri, like, so the shadows have to, like, because that's, again, freedom is a key theme in One Piece, so, like, Hogback's creating lives, quote unquote, but they're not free, they're slaves, so it's, like, that's not an existence that's worth living, like, Chopper even says, like, what's, a body that moves is not necessarily alive, so, it's that, which is why he sees that as this corruption of life, but also, so, like, with Sindri you have, like, what might be the original body, like, connecting to what's happening in the present, even though it's, like, been dead for 10 years, and then what happens later on with Lola is the human version of Lola like, she has, like, a subconscious memory from what her soul, like, she sees Nami she calls her Nami, having never met her before, and, like, or was it Namizo? I forget which one she said. But it's like, yeah. So it's like, there's still a connection between, like, the soul. Like, the shadow goes on, has its experiences, and when those experiences come back to the person, like, Hogback could do great things with the zombies. Like, imagine, like a bedridden person who can't see the world. He takes that shadow, the shadow has experiences, and then the body, it returns the body, and that body somehow gets some vague small bits of, like, an actual life, like, but he decides to do, like, the worst thing with this gift and this connection with Moria, like, and Chopper says, he's not treating them, like, he keeps saying, like, look, I brought a human back to life, but Chopper's like, they're not humans, you're not treating them like humans, because Hogback's a shithead. So yeah, it's neat.
Maybe there's something to be said about the fact that, like, he does all these things, and then how this quote-unquote fight with Chopper ends is him getting stepped on by his own, like, master creation. So.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's fucking great. So yeah, that's good stuff. But yeah, not as great as a fight, but definitely still a neat conflict between, the two, even if it was mostly through words. But yeah, that's fine. So anyway, the fights are basically over. Absalom steals Nami. Because he wasn't quite beaten. He was almost beaten, but not quite. As Oars just, like, starts fucking shit up, and everyone's like, oh fuck, what do we do?
Yeah, this is again where, like, the conflicts this is where they all converge, because, like, you have Luffy is with Oars and Moria, and then, like, so when Luffy's shadow goes berserk, then, like, that crashes through the wall, and it's like Chopper and Robin, who were, like, with Luffy originally, like, they're the ones who kind of get the first reaction of it, because, like, the wall collapses and their fight gets interrupted.
Yeah, well, and they each see individual parts of his body. Like, Sanji sees his foot crash through. Usopp's getting the brunt of it with Oars' face. Like he's, like, right in the path. Like, he's just so big that he can't help but affect the entire island. Which is, well, because, like, they even point out, like, he's, like, Luffy even says that he's bigger than normal giants, because, like, Oars is, like, a giant, like, there's, like, the destroyers or Moria are, like, giant humans, so, like, or big humans, and he's a big giant, like, he's bigger than normal giants, so, like, goddamn, he's a big dude. But yeah, also I love how he's, like, ready to fight the Straw Pirates, and Zoro's like, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, but this is honestly a pretty long fight. Like, I think it goes on for, like, a good part of a volume. because Oars is like tough and resilient. Like he's got Luffy's shadow, like because he always moves faster than anyone can. Like they're like, oh shit, I forgot he moves really fast because he's Luffy. So like he actually like crushes everyone at first, but they turn out to be all right. So yeah. I guess overall thoughts. I mean, I'll still go through it like piece by piece because that's the thing. It also goes on so long. There's other stuff happening. Like Nami wakes up. Lola helps her, and she avenges Lola and takes out Absalom.
Yeah, that was also kind of funny because like she's like, oh, I used this attack earlier and it didn't work. Why'd it work now? But it's because like Sanji beat the crap out of him, so he was like on his last legs.
And she's like, whatever, I win. And she like she's just like fist pumping. She's so good. Nami's good.
I love it when Oars is like looking at his arm, like because he's got the bounties on his arm.
Yes.
And he sees the picture of Sanji and looks at Sanji's face and he's like, identical.
The same. And he's the only one in the arc to do that. Everyone else is like, the only reason he was in Dogpen's body is because they thought he was a nobody.
Yeah, because even Moria, one of the warlords of the sea, he's like, oh, we found this guy, this blonde-haired guy with no bounty. So like even the warlord of the sea doesn't get it, but here this stupid zombie gets it.
Oh, it looks identical, like poor Sanji.
So it's like the stupidity of the photo and the stupidity of the zombie like cancel each other out, and so like now they. It makes sense. Like,
because there's two possible explanations for it. It's like one is either like the shadow still remembers Sanji because it's Luffy's shadow, or the other explanation is because if you remember back on Luffy in the past, remember he saw the banana gator and he goes, hey look, a banana, and he sees like the animals on Gaimon's island and he's like there's a snake with rabbit ears and he's like, hey look, a rabbit. Like he sees like the smaller attributes and takes that as the whole. So
yeah, because it's Luffy. So yeah, that makes sense.
Right, so Oris sees the basic, like, the swirly eyebrow, and he's go like, oh yeah, that looks like Sanji. Like, that's it. He only needs the smaller, even though the rest of it, does, like, the lips don't, the face proportions, like, it's all wrong. It's all wrong for Sanji. He gets, like, this cartoon.
So it's both stupid, but also, like, if you think deeper about it, it also makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah. I do think the fight is cool because like they do so many team attacks, like, and here's the moment I talked about I want to mention earlier because okay, speaking of like, honestly, like I again, the humor is so good. Like there's the extremely negative bit and then there's Pirate Docking 6 Giant Robot Warrior.
Yes.
Where they combine. Tony actually gave them a full-on mecha transformation sequence. Like it's great. And Robin's reaction.
Yes, because Robin is just like it. What did she say? Like, as a human being,
I find it as a human being. I find this embarrassing, and they're just like, and even Oars is like, "What? You're not gonna do it?" Because of course, Oars, he's Luffy. He would be interested in that, and he gets pissed off. But what I also really like about this moment is, if you remember back when Robin first snuck onto the crew. She was like, she helped Luffy with his like chopper impression, and she was like messing around with her hands. She was like being goofy with them. But here, she's not being goofy with them. And what I really like about that is because before, she wasn't really part of the crew. She was lying to get on their good side. But now she's honestly part of the crew, so she can be honest about her true feelings. She doesn't want to take part in these shenanigans, and they, of course, they accept it. I mean, they're distraught, and like because even Oars is mad, but like. They're not gonna like begrudge her for it because they're actually a family.
Yeah,
they're great.
It's good.
And, like. She's even like, don't ever ask me to dock with you again. And they're just like Luffy would have done it with us. Why could you betray us? Like, but it's all like in good spirits. So it's like it's not like they're actually like mad at Robin. But it's like I just love that they're she's part of the crew, so she's able to be honest with her true feelings in ways that she wasn't at the start of Jaya and the end of Alabasta. It's just a really small thing. But One Piece has no character development.
But even then, you have like Zoro too. Like he's part of it, but because he didn't know what was going on, so afterwards he's like, "Wow, I can't believe they made me do that. That was so embarrassing. Never again."
Oh man, the humor.
No,
in the
yeah.
so good.
Robin's good. That was probably one of my favorite panels of the arc. This arc has so many good moments and so many good gags.
Well, because like they do all this team of attack and they knock down Oars and it looks really cool. And then like next chapter he's like, "Aw, my horns are stuck," and they're just like. oh, that sucks for you. Like, they have all these evil, spooky faces, and Oars is, like, screaming in terror. Like, I like the commentary from the zombies, because it's, they just, like, have no idea what the fucking, like, Oars must be playing, did Oars just get knocked down, or is he playing? Like, because he rolls, because he gets knocked over, and, like, they're so fucking strong, they could do that, like, and, of course, the Oars is screaming in terror, that their reaction to that was also good, but,
So I guess if I were to give my thoughts on this fight, as someone who generally does not like the whole everybody teams up to fight a big threat and all the action stops, I really like this fight. I enjoyed it.
Because, like, the character interactions are great. Oars he's Luffy, so he's fun on his own, and then, like, you know, I think it's also, like, the fact that he's huge really plays a part in, like, how they fight him. Like, they're not just throwing attacks at him. Like, where are they attacking him? How? Like, it's almost like because actually Monster Hunter is one of my favorite game franchises, and it's also very like, where you fight these big monsters and where you attack really matters, because, like, if you're fighting a rock guy who's got his rocks on his back and his front is soft, you'll, like, your weapons will bounce off his back, and so you have to, like, pay attention to where you're attacking. And this fight has a bit of that, where, like, you know, they're going for the knees, and when they do the team up attack, like, you know, they get him off of his 1 foot, Chopper and Frankie attack him in the jaw, then he's only on one foot, so Sanji knocks it down. It's just, like, it's all the focus on the location of where they're fighting Oars at, because the size is taken into account. You know, it's really great. So yeah, there is a couple things that happen during the fight. Bartholomew Kuma.
Yeah.
How did you react to another fucking Warlord of the Sea just showing up? Like, what's up? What's going on?
See,
because you would have recognized him, so.
Yeah, because he was introduced along with Doflamingo. So.
Yes. And
yeah,
his
that
designs
was
are so, you know, distinct. It's like you can't forget a character very easily.
Was this the big reveal that, like, everyone in the comments was like, "Oh, I can't wait for Mathwiz to see this"?
Oh, did they say that? Because maybe.
Well, I don't know. Like, some people were talking about, like, "Oh, there's a big reveal next chapter. Can't wait for that."
Or next arc. Oh yeah, because you were, like, freaking out about the Garp and Dragon stuff. Because yeah, it's so long that these characters show up. Then when they do, it's like, and with Kuma especially, because. Okay, here's what I say annoyed me, but not really, but it's like, he says some fucking cryptic shit, and I'm just like, fucking, like, because at the end, he says, like, oh yeah, I guess Luffy is your son. Huh, dragon. Like, characters just don't know that. Like, that's a big secret in the setting. How the fuck does he know that?
Oh, I didn't consider that. Somehow I just kind of took it at face value and was like, yeah, okay. But no, that...
Yeah. And the other one is, like, so when he was talking with Moria, they were talking about, like, the warlord's position was filled with Blackbeard, and Moria was like, oh yeah, so that means the balance of power is going to be restored, right? And Bartholomew Kuma was like, I think the opposite, in fact, but never mind that. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because, like, after the Ace Blackbeard fight, you know, it's like, oh, this sets off an incident later, and I'm just like, does Kuma, how smart is this guy? Did he already figure some stuff is gonna happen because Blackbeard's a warlord now? Like, wow, this guy, fucking Kuma, he's just a super mysterious guy, and he's got a mysterious power because he just makes things vanish. Like, Perona's doing, like, all her attacks at once, and he's just like, whoop, you're gone. Like,
see, yeah, that's what I'm kind of curious about, how I'm not entirely sure what all his powers are, because Perona just disappears, and, like, he asked, like, this weird question, like, where would you want to go on vacation or whatever?
And she even answers,
and, like, he does that again later
place.
When he shows up. I think he says that. I don't know if he says that to, like, all the Straw Hats, but he shows up.
He says it to Moria for sure, because he says it to Moria, and he's like, I know your power, don't leave me alone. And we do find out his power, because he has the power to repel anything with his paws, which is a fucking crazy power, because he can, like, he repels Luffy's, like, pain and, like, fatigue. Like, he repels concepts, like...
But is that, like, his only power? Because, like, again, with how, what's her name? I forget. Perona, like, she just disappears. And, like, so, like, what did asking the question have to do with that? Because he asked Nami a question, and Nami answered the question. So, like, is something gonna happen to Nami? Because, like, because now I'm all suspicious. Now I don't know. Because I was like, wow, is, like, Nami gonna get, like, kidnapped or something? Like,
is this the work of an enemy stand? Like, that's what you sound like. Well, because stands even have, like, stands are way more like less grounded, like, because yeah, they'll have powers that activate through like words or breathing, like they're way more specific than devil fruits. So like the way you're tying the question into it made me think of JoJo.
Well, and plus like he can like teleport himself, so I was like, can he teleport people? Did he like kidnap Perona or something, and like could he do that with Nami? So like I don't know. I was thinking this was gonna be set up for like the next thing, because like he just appears there, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, but well, I also kind of like how it comes back later. Like he's still there. But we'll talk about that when we get to that.
I also like how it does just happen out of nowhere, because like Nami's going after them to get the treasure, and it's like, oh, this seems like it's gonna be some wacky hijinks. But no, here's another warlord of the sea, just chilling. He's just here.
The fucking warlord just boom. Yeah, that's why it's so, because it's like the warlords have like a weight to them, because that these, and his bounty's not small, like it's like 298, so it's like close to where, and that's his former bounty, so we don't know how strong he is relatively. So it's like, ooh, it's just like boom, fucking. And I also like the page with him and Moria together, because they're like both really big, but they're also like opposite in body size, whereas Kuma has like a huge upper body, Moria has a huge lower body, so it's like they have interesting contrasts with each other. Oh man, Kuma showing up is really neat, because it's just like so, like he doesn't even fit the aesthetic of the arc. He's just like a dude with bear ears. He's not some spooky boy, so he's just like here and out of place. Oh man, it's neat. But we'll talk more about him later. So meanwhile, Luffy loses Moria, because Moria, as we find out, he can just swap places with his shadow. So obviously he just set his shadow off and then swap places with it. So then Luffy was stuck in the middle of the woods like an idiot.
What I do like during the fighting with Oars, and while this was sort of happening with Luffy, like the Straw Hats were saying, like Usopp and someone, they were like, oh, you don't have to fight this guy. Like, if Luffy can beat Moria, then we'll be fine. So like you don't have to waste your energy here. But then Zoro had said something along the lines of like Luffy's not good with tricks, so like they can't really just count on Luffy. Like they have to contribute in their own way, because like Moria's crafty, so like that's Luffy's weakness.
Yeah. Right. Which is that I definitely want to comment on that. Well, I guess I'll mention it now, because like what I think is interesting. Well, no, I definitely want to talk about it later because of how Moria and Luffy contrast, but that definitely plays into that. Well, I guess I can mention this part now, because the crew is saying that they need to not rely on Luffy so much, but at the same time they do, because what happens when Moria uses his Shadow's Asgard? Luffy does everything, and that's kind of like, if you like, for the most part, like the arcs are all kind of revolve around what is Luffy doing? Like Luffy had to stop Eneru, because otherwise Eneru would destroy Skypiea. Luffy had to stop Crocodile, because he would have continued his plans if he was still conscious and not arrested. Like Enies Lobby, if Luffy didn't beat Lucci would have attacked the crew and caused more trouble. And like even here, but like here they're not even like doing anything while like Luffy attacks Moria. So it's like they're relying on Luffy too much, whereas Moria is kind of the inverse, because he tries to rely on his crew for everything, because like his motto is you do it. And as for why that's the case, I definitely we'll talk about that when we get to the full fight. But while you mentioned that, I definitely want to point out that contrast now, because it's not like the crew is like useless, not at all. They're doing plenty of stuff to help Luffy, and help out during the arc. But at the same time, Luffy's he's got an overpowering presence. So, and I think that's worth mentioning because it comes up later. So yeah. Did you have any other thoughts on the Moria Kuma conversation? Because I mentioned stuff about it earlier, but because they mentioned Blackbeard. Oh yeah, and the government's worried about another warlord being beaten by Luffy, because and it's actually like about to happen.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that we are at this point in like we're getting to like the climax of the arc. Like this is the final battle setting, and like Moria's not even present. Like he's just sort of like disconnected from it, because he's like, oh, what do they mean? We're gonna lose another warlord of the sea. You don't think I can win? Even though like, so it's like he's not even involved when we are like at the climax of the arc.
Right. Well,
which is just interesting, because that's who Moria is. Because like you said, he has other people fight for him, and I guess that's what also kind of helps make the fight against Oars a little more interesting, is because like obviously it's like thematically relevant because like he's fighting from like within inside Oars.
Yeah,
so
well, because
like
it's funny because after Kuma mentions that, like, Moria goes in to fight, not directly because he is fighting from within Oars, but and it also factors into sort of like the ambition fact because they both want to be Pirate King, Luffy and Moria, but like Moria wants everyone else to help him do it, but like because like Oars is he's just fighting the Straw Hats, and then he gets like then once he gets Moria inside of him, he fucking like he beats them. Like they bring the salt, it was useless. Like they keep fighting, but like he eventually just like beats the Straw Hats pretty much. Like they're even doing the shadow. He's stretching the shadows. Everyone's like pulling out even more team attacks. Like Nami and Brook have come in, so they've got even more. But they're still not able to beat Moria and Oars together because it's like well, because I guess like yeah, Moria is fighting now is what because like the other thing with Oars is that like he's Luffy without the desire to be Pirate King because Moria took that desire from him. Like Luffy even says that like hey or Shadow, you know, if you want to be Pirate King, stick with me. So like Oars is like the power but not the ambition. So it's like you know of course you know the straw but this way he was just sort of fighting even with the Straw Hats, and then Moria, the ambition came in, and then he wins. But then Luffy comes back, and that goes into Moria's fight, which we'll talk about. If that made any sense. I'm all over the place a bit. But yeah, it was interesting to see Moria systematically like drop the Straw Hats. Like, because did you have any thoughts on that part of the fight? The Moria and Oars versus the Straw Hats?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does just kind of ultimately boil down to... Like, this is... What I think is also sort of interesting is that this is the first time, I think this is the first time in One Piece that we've had the main character fights a big villain and, like, everyone watches on from the sidelines and, like, cheers him on. Almost like a Fate of the World fight, even though it's obviously not Fate of the World in this instance.
I mean, that kind of happened in Skypiea, but the difference is that I noticed is that like in Skypiea the others couldn't get to Eneru and Luffy, but in this case like they were there, they could have fought, but like they did against like because like so like Nightmare Luffy comes in, he beats Moria and Oars, and then he beats Oars, but then he doesn't really because like Oars is still like able to stand after that, and then they team up to beat Oars. So it's like, you know, they're not completely beaten, and you know Luffy's not fighting completely alone either. But like after that, like the other Straw Hats kind of don't do much. So, but yeah, well, because like I guess that goes back to like the whole like the unity thing and the ambition thing, because like they beat Oars to get like they're only able to beat Oars when all of the Straw Hats are working together, pretty much. Like even Luffy, like they're only able to finish them off. Like even Nightmare Luffy alone doesn't truly beat Oars.
Well, yeah, because even then, like, I specifically remember they had done all the damage, like, they were working on the arm for, you know, their fight, and then, like, Luffy kind of does the final blow or whatever, like, but he could only really, like, deal that much damage because the other Straw Hats had kind of worn him down, so, like, it's not just Luffy all by himself doing it. At least in that particular case.
Like, because the other Straw Hats wore him down, then Nightmare Luffy did a lot of damage, and then, even after that, like, they don't do direct hits on Oars. Luffy's the one who does the final blow, but everyone else, like, does the setup. You know, like, they freeze the legs, Sanji wraps the chain around him, they to get his spine straight. You know, Chopper has the medical knowledge to direct everything. You know, Zoro, hits him with 3,000. Like, he finally successfully uses 3,000 worlds for the first time in the manga, even though it's the fan favorite best Zoro attack, and that helps get Oars' back straight for when Luffy does the final blow. So it's like, yeah, they all help and team up in the end, even if they're all not dealing direct damage. You know, Luffy is the one who does the final blow too. So final thoughts on did you have any other thoughts on Nightmare Luffy or Oars in general before we move on? If you want to skim through.
Nope, we can just jump straight in.
All right, because after that, you know, Luffy, you know, he's, you know, cooling down from Nightmare Luffy. It seems like it's over, but then we get some really interesting stuff from Moria, because you know he comes out of Oars' belly, and he's got some things to say, because he basically says that, you know, like, you know, that Luffy, like, you know, even if he's able to be Moria, he's not able to survive in the new world because, like, he's got his underlings, but they'll all die. And, like, because, like, this page does, these 2 pages do so much for Moria, because it explains, like he had his crew, because he fought Kaido, who's currently an emperor, And like he lost his whole crew, and so it's like he doesn't want to so he has these zombies because doesn't want to form new attachments. He's too afraid to lose his crew again. So he's got all these expendable zombies, and because it's like, and again, it's like it's interesting and contrasted with Brook, because Brook is willing to make new connections. He joins with the Straw. It's like, yeah, he could lose them again, but he's still willing to try. Whereas Moria doesn't want to try. Like, honestly, I'd almost say that Moria loves his crew too much. Like Moria's very extreme of a character, I think, because it's like after he loses his crew, he just doesn't want anything. Like he has the bare minimum, like a couple guys to manage the zombies, the guy who makes them, and then a bunch of zombies. But like, and of course, after he loses Oars, like, here's the thing about Moria's power. It's really fucking strong. Like, okay, stop for, I want you to explain how many different things can Moria do with his Devil Fruit power, from what you remember.
He can control the shadows. He can take shadows away from people. He can absorb the shadows into himself. He can swap spots with his shadow.
Yeah, so it's like, he's got so many fucking abilities, because, like, cutting away shadows knocks people out for, like, a few days, it's supposed to. So it's like, in daylight, it's an insta-kill move if he doesn't want the shadow, because now you don't have a shadow, you're in daylight, you just fucking die.
He can also have his own shadow fight for him.
Exactly, and the thing with Shadow's Asgard is like the whole part of the reason Moria is not able to like easily win is because he decides, because again, the extremes, he takes all 1,000 shadows. If he had just taken 100 shadows, like, think about how much damage Nightmare Luffy toyed with Oars. Okay, with just 100 shadows, Moria would have easily just destroyed the Straw Hats, and like, because he's kind of like losing himself, like he's like barely able to contain the shadows. He's so big, like. But again, because he went to that extreme, like he doesn't try, he's not able to understand the nuances of his power. Like, because it's he can build an army, he did build an army, but it's like he's just not, he's got a really strong power, but he's not utilizing it in the ideal way. Like, that it could be utilized in. Like, if he was a smarter character who was more proactive, like, he'd be fucking unstoppable with that Devil Fruit power, I swear to God. It's too strong. But it's just like, it's perfect because it's in the hands of this lazy fuck. But, so it's like, but he doesn't want to try because he doesn't want to know the fear of failure. Like, he wants everyone, like, if someone else fails, he'll just find someone else. Like, he was even saying that with Oars, they can capture even stronger pirates and get even stronger shadows. Like, with time, he can have the strongest crew in the world, but Luffy comes in and ruins everything. So yeah, did you have any final thoughts on the Moria fight? Because I actually do have a little bit more to say, but I've been talking for too long.
I think I already kind of basically said what I had to say about it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I do like the aspect that up until this point, Moria hadn't really been fighting. Like I said, he was using his shadow to fight Luffy, so he didn't have to do it. He was using Oars to fight, so he didn't have to do it. And he had all the zombies and whatnot, and he had all his minions. So, like, the whole running thing with him was that he wasn't really doing anything. Like, all his battles were being fought for him. He wasn't really, I mean, like, yeah, he was helping Oars, like, using his own powers to kind of help the fight, but he wasn't, like, directly on the front lines or whatever. Like, he was, joined up, or I don't know how to say it, but yeah, you basically already did. And so here, like, he finally goes to do something on his own, and he completely screws up.
See, I'm not even sure if that's quite the case, because see, what kind of happens is, because Luffy combines his two gears and does, like, gear 3 and 2 at the same time, which Chopper even warns is likely to fuck up his body. Meanwhile, Moria is also doing a desperation move in that he's taking, so, like, they're kind of, like, fighting on the same level in that they're both using desperation moves. But what I think is interesting is because of how the fight, like, how it ends is, like, Moria gets crushed by the mansion that he knocked down, but, like, the way I see it is, like, I feel like if they kept fighting, like, if the sun wasn't a thing, like, it could go on for longer, but, like, because they're fighting on kind of the same level, but, like, Moria basically kind of gives up. Like, he says, like, you know what, he's like, you think you can go to the new world, then go. The real nightmare is waiting for you in the new world.
Yeah.
Like, he wants Luffy to go through the same pain of losing his crew that he did. He wants Luffy to suffer, but so he basically, like, he gives up all, like, I think that, I maybe this is just my interpretation, but I do think that Moria maybe could have held, like, he's conscious there, like the pillar just fell on him, but he's still able to form, like, sentences, like, So I think that he could have held on to some of the shadows for a little longer, and like the Straw Hats would have gotten disintegrated by the sun, and he would have won. But
yeah,
he gave
I
up.
definitely agree that I think that he was sort of like he saw something like some of himself in Luffy, and that like someone who believed that they could do all this
Yeah.
on their own. So like he wanted to see he wants Luffy to go out there and fail. And like,
right, it's the Obito thing almost, where it's like he sees his past self in the protagonist, and he wants the. It's just like a different, like with Obito, he was directly challenging Naruto there, whereas with Moria, he doesn't he's saying you do it to whatever pirate might fuck over Luffy in the New World. He's not, because Moria doesn't do things himself, so it's like it's such a perfect ending like to the fight, because it's so with just how Moria, like Moria's great, honestly, like holy shit, he's an interesting villain, even though it's like he gets so like he doesn't even get like a flashback or anything. He just gets this like a few lines of like what happened to him. That just everything makes sense, and the way the fight ends. Moria is really interesting, I think. So yeah, it was a really neat way to end it, I think. And of course, so it's in the they kind of explained like because everyone's like body was disintegrating, but then they just come back, which makes sense because like again as with the Oars fight, Moria's. The body can take the form of the shadow when the Moria's involved. So it's like the shadow is fine, and then it gets back to the body. So the body's fine now, even though it had just been disintegrating. So, yeah, I guess it works. But yeah, we see scenes of everyone reacting. Because we heard Kaido's name earlier, but this is the first time we hear that he's one of the 4 emperors, like on the tier of like Whitebeard and Shanks. So, yeah. And then we see Margarita, who was the Sindri Shadow owner, and like I said, things have gotten better for her. And everyone's fine. Luffy's out, Moria's out. Lolo's crew thanks everyone. And did you have any final thoughts on that, or shall we get into Kuma return?
Yeah, originally I was a little sort of thrown off by like the introduction of like Lola's pirates, because at first I was like, well, usually Oda will like set this stuff up beforehand, so I was like, oh, this is a little weird that this crew sort of came out of nowhere. But obviously that wasn't entirely the case, because like Lola was the boar person who Nami befriended. So like,
right.
Yeah, it all worked out in the end.
Well, because even when the old man was talking about everything, there was like other people in the trees who were like, yeah, to beat Moria, like, please, or help.
Oh, and then, yeah, that's true. You're right.
So it's not like they did kind of come out, but they were implied to be there. Like they were part of the Moria victims group. Yes.
But yeah.
Anyway,
then
so yeah,
Kuma.
Nami Nami's like, oh shit, there's another warlord, and sure enough, he's like, because he reports on the defeat, and because warlords are supposed to be like, they've got this valuable title from the government, so they can't just if they can't get beaten by some random nobody. I mean, even though Luffy's not quite a random nobody at this point, he brought down Enies Lobby, but they're not gonna fire Moria from the warlords for losing, because they're just gonna kill everyone so that the story doesn't get out. And Moria's like, or Akuma's like, all right, it's a simple task.
Yeah, because Kuma had said some interesting things. Like I guess I'm getting a little more into the fight. So
that's fine.
But yeah, he says like, because he's kind of like not the same cyborg as like Frankie, but like he said he was like a tool of the government, and like he's another one of those characters who just kind of acts on orders. He just goes out and does what he's told.
Yeah.
But then it was interesting because the way the arc ended, he didn't really like. I'm still a little confused on what happened there, like why he stopped.
Yeah, no, because like Kuma's really weird, and like even speaking from having known the whole series, there's still like major things we don't know about him. We do know a little bit more, but it's like again that line with him mentioning a dragon at the end. It's like well, because he's comparing Luffy to Dragon. Like he knows that Dragon has excellent friends. Or because he says the line is like, you have exceptional friends. He like to Luffy. So, and he's like so. What do you know about Dragon, Kuma? Oh man, and he has a connection to Vegapunk, the scientist we learned about last time. goddamn, like Kuma. So yeah, his actions are definitely mysterious at this point. Cause like yeah, he's supposed to be. Moria says that he's the one who just follows the government's orders. So you'd think he'd be kind of like like Lucci in that way, not necessarily like motive wise, but at least in action wise. But at the same time, like he doesn't kill any. Like he doesn't even kill. Like he leaves Zoro to die, but he does it in a way that like Zoro happens to not die. So yeah, cause like and even it says that like oh yeah I'll just I just need Luffy's head to appease the government. Like so he's even kind of like doing the bare minimum to appease the government, even though he's supposed to do their orders. So yeah, he's definitely not quite what the government or what Moria thinks he is. So it's weird.
It was also sort of interesting that this just kind of happens immediately. Like, here we just had this major fight with Moria, and then Kuma's like, well, okay, I guess I'll just take out the survivors. And so, like, Luffy is in no condition to fight. Like, Luffy's unconscious, so you get to see, like, some moments from... See, what I think was also really interesting was when the Straw Hats all kind of, like, tried to gang up on him, and they did their various attacks. So, like, Zoro starts fighting him, and then Sanji jumps in to, like, attack him, and immediately Kuma is just like, oh, you're Blackfoot Sanji. Like, you're like, even with the messy poster, like, he immediately recognized this is Sanji, and then when he gets sniped by Usopp, he doesn't, even though Usopp's face wasn't shown, he doesn't goof around. He's like, okay, so that's the Sniper King. So, like, he immediately knows who everybody is. Like, he does his job. An
intelligent character in my One Piece? There's not supposed to be intelligent characters in One Piece.
So, yeah, he's not dumb. Which was cool.
Oh, man. That's funny. Also,
I like how, now that you put it that way, I like how my reaction is like, what, a smart character in One Piece? That's so cool.
Yeah. Though I also like the moment where it's like, I heard that Luffy has underlings who aren't without talent, and the other guys are like, aw, you're making me blush. Like, because yeah, Luffy's so overshadowing that them getting recognition, they're happy. Of course they are. Well, Robin doesn't care, but everyone else is like, aw, yeah. it's good. But yeah, so like Zoro tries to fight. Like he sort of takes everything onto himself in both like the start of the fight, but it doesn't turn out, and then as everyone else sort of interferes, and then he turns out to be a fucking cyborg, like way more high tech looking than Frankie, honestly, like with his machinery that we see on his shoulder, and he's fucking he fires a fucking laser beam, like, so yeah, what did you think about the Zoro's sacrifice? Like, well, because you even have Sanji, who's like, he even comes in, he's like, I'll do it, and then Zoro doesn't let him, though. And then, yeah, what did you think about that?
Well, see, like I had said with Nami, like, I almost thought that, especially, like, when he comes in, he says, like, I'll take, I'll spare everyone if I can just, take the head of Straw Hat Luffy. So, like, I was figuring somebody was going to get, like, taken to prison or something here. Like, I figured that's what was going to happen. Which, I guess, not fully wrong, but not right in the way that I was thinking. So, it was interesting. Like, that sounds like a very Zoro thing to do, is, I will... sacrifice myself. So I was wondering, like, is Zoro going to get taken, or is he going to take both of them to kind of compensate Luffy's bounty? But that's obviously not what happened, because Zoro attacks him. And then you get the moment where Kuma, like, extracts Luffy's suffering, like, his damage, and gives that to Zoro. And, like, see, I don't know what to really make of this situation yet, because, because Zoro said he would do that, and, like, it's all about honor or whatever, so he's like, you as an honorable person, you can't, deny me or whatever, but he's like, okay, but I'm going to show you hell, and then he
does the thing.
Yeah, so, like, and then he just leaves him there, which I don't understand. Like, I guess maybe Zoro won his, like, respect or something by, like, taking, because, I don't know, like, I don't know what to make of this situation.
Yeah, because, I mean, Kuma's definitely weird, but, like, I mean, because I've already mentioned, like, Sanji's also self-sacrificing. Like, he like, got up and, tried to self-sacrifice himself instead of Zoro, but Zoro, also, like...
Yeah, I guess that was also kind of interesting, is that Zoro, you could say, well, like, he hates Sanji, so maybe he didn't want to let Sanji share the glory. But it seemed more like, he did kind of care about Sanji a little bit. Like,
no, he definitely cares about the Straw. It's like they fight a lot, but they're still able to work together. They're still allies. So it's like.
So like he said, he was going to take the sacrifice. Like he wasn't going to have anybody else share that burden with him because he didn't want them to suffer. Something. If that's what it felt like, at least.
Right. Well, because he even mentions the honor part, like, because it's like he said that he would let his head, but he didn't take the easy way out when Sanji offered that path. He decided, like, I decided to, to be to die or, meet whatever fate you have in Luffy's place. And so Kuma literally gives Zoro Luffy's, fate, pretty much, in the form of his pain, almost, you could say. And yeah, well, because, like, I will say that, like, because self-sacrifice, it generally is not rewarded as far as the story goes. Like I mentioned a bit with Sanji, like, he, the only, kind of the one exception was with Eneru, where he, saves Nami and Usopp, but, like, he goes into the water to keep Zoro from doing it, and, like, yeah, he kept Zoro from doing it, but at the same time, he wasn't needed in the water, and in fact, he got fucked over for it. Vivi tried to do it, Robin did it, Nami did it with Arlong and Enies Lobby, those two. So it's like, in this arc alone, like, yeah, Zoro's self-sacrifice, he gets really wounded, but he saves the day. I'll just leave that hang there.
Yeah, because even then, I'm not entirely sure if he did save the day. So, like, I don't know. I'm still... The word is still out on how I feel about this moment. Because I feel like there's more that I don't have. There's more context I'm missing.
Yeah, it's not resolved, per se. And yeah, but I will say that, like, Kuma left, and that's what was most important. Like, the strong warlord of the sea who wrecked the entire crew without trying, basically. I mean, they were wounded, to be fair, but, like... He beat them, and yeah, but he's gone, and that's it's fine. So that's
another thing I really like that I forgot to mention was when he like builds up that big like pressure shockwave thing, and it just like levels the whole place like that. That's another one of those like big displays of power that's very shonen, and it was great. Love it.
Yeah, Kuma's interesting, even though he's like so like he's almost the anti One Piece character. He doesn't emote a lot. He's intelligent. Like, it's only his design that's really weird. Like, otherwise it'd be like, what manga did you come from? Because it wasn't One Piece.
But yeah, that's also what like makes him work, is because he is not very One Piece. So like it feels kind of jarring, to be honest. Like he just appears like immediately at the end of that fight, and so it's like it's very what's the word? Unsettling, maybe. Right. For like the story that One Piece tends to tell, which I like.
Because you made the Lucci comparison and how he just like follows orders, and of course he doesn't quite follow orders. Like, he didn't do the exact like to the letter at least, but he doesn't like take like sick pleasure in it from what we've seen. Like, Lucci was a murderous asshole who just like he likes it because he likes doing orders because it gives him what he wants. Kuma just does orders for an unspecified motive. So even then, it's like he's almost like deliberate. Like he's also like a cyborg, so that helps. But he's like deliberately without character almost. It's weird, and like you said, it makes him more unsettling, and I might say robotic. So which is part of the point. Like, he even say or did he say that he was a tool of the government, or did someone say that? Yeah, I think so. Like, no, he said that when he was talking about the fact that he was a cyborg. So yeah, it's there. It's all there. So anyway, we see Hogback and Absalom escaping with Moria. They talk about the whole Ace thing, because he's in Impel Down awaiting execution, whereas and of course
let's talk about now Blackbeard Marshall D. Teach is now a warlord of the sea, which it didn't immediately click in my head until like this moment actually happened, but like now that like the fight with Ace is now like the trigger, like it's the trigger, because now like because he's a warlord of the sea, now Ace is like captive, and like because he's a pirate, but like it's before it was just like a fight between two pirates, but now it's like the government versus a oh my god. And now that like that's clearly the trigger for the next arc. Like, that's the setup, is that Ace got captured and is Luffy's brother, and his life is in trouble. It's in danger because of the paper that they set up all the way back in Alabasta. And it came back up here. And it seems like it's also setting up a future story beat that I just don't know yet. Because it's like, I know someone in the New World.
Yeah, well, and in itself, like the whole Ace and Blackbeard stuff, that goes back to Drum Island, so it's like how far it goes back, like fucking almost 300 chapters at this point.
Fuck.
So yeah, fucking Oda. Oh man, but yeah, so they're doing the recuperating thing. Luffy's eating cheese because that's all they have. And Lola meets Nami, and the way you talked about earlier with the shadows thing, because Nami, I love it. Nami gives away treasure.
Yes.
And everyone's just like, a storm is coming, like hell is frozen over, they're just freaking out. Like
it was such a good character moment for Nami, because like it shows that like even if she like values treasure so highly, like she also values friendship. So like she's willing to give away that treasure. It's so good. Nami's so good.
She is very greedy, but like she's because like with Luffy, he's like, can I have this little like wristband? And Nami's like, whatever. It's just an accessory piece. You can take it. But like with Lola, she gives her like a whole armful because her shadow, it wasn't even technically her. It was just like, but even though they still have that connection through the shadow, but Lola, okay, and that's her personality too. Like even if it was a different person with quote unquote, they're still very similar personalities. Like that was a Lola who saved Nami, and they became friends, so it's neat. So, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, they're partying, and the Risky Brothers are about to tell about what Zoro did, and Sanji takes him aside and hears it on his own. I think I had something to say. Oh, I guess I will. I want to say something. I was looking through my notes again, and I guess I forgot to say. Well, because like the chapter where Zoro sacrifices himself was called Straw Hat Pirates Pirate Hunter Zoro. So it's got like his full title, basically, like the crew he's on in his title. And I want to say, because I feel like that's going to be the start of another trend with the number, like similar to the numbered chapters, where the numbered chapters happen where every Straw Hat like fully joins. I feel like I'm wondering if we're gonna get these like bounty title chapters where the crew, because that's what Zoro does, is he offers his life so that Luffy can become Pirate King. Like in the beginning of the series, he said like, hey Luffy, if you get in the way of me becoming the strongest swordsman in the world, I'll make sure you slit your belly. But now he's the opposite. He's slitting his own belly for Luffy's sake, like basically. So
and it also
I'm
just like in that sense as well, but also like he starts off as the pirate hunter, but like now here he is like willing to offer his life for a pirate. So it really shows that like if there was any doubt left, like we've fully hit the point where like he's a pirate.
How do
like,
you just shove the cover character development in the audience faces, right? But like, so I just saw always see that title, and I wonder if the others, like, if there's gonna be a chapter like that for every Straw Hat eventually, like a Straw Hat Pirates Cat Burglar Nami, where she shows her absolute dedication to the crew, something like Straw Hat Pirates Cotton Candy Lover Chopper, or some stuff like that. I wonder if we're gonna see those eventually. It'd be neat. And it makes sense for Zoro to get the first one because he's the first member of the crew. But yeah, so anyway, Sanji learns about Zoro's self-sacrifice.
And Robin uses her powers to eavesdrop, so she gets in on it too.
Well, because it's like the Risky Brothers, they're like, oh, they think it's cool, but like, as I said, like I don't think self-sacrifice is ultimately rewarded in this story. So like Sanji keeps it quiet because it's not something to be proud of. Like he even says like Luffy wouldn't be. Do you think that Luffy would be happy about that? And like he convinces the Risky Brothers to keep quiet. And later, Brook, of course, we find out that Brook does know, and he's thankful, and also like it gets him he's gets more attached to the crew.
Now what I thought was interesting there was that like Sanji, maybe I'm misreading the scene, but it almost seemed like he was more so like trying to keep the information away from Luffy. Like I know Zoro also didn't really do it for recognition, but I don't know. It seemed like it was more about keeping it a secret from Luffy, and I feel like there's going to be some sort of like maybe there won't be a direct consequence for that, but I feel like Luffy knowing would probably like I don't know. I feel like Luffy knowing in this instance would kind of be better because like maybe he'd have to curb his strategy a little more, or the way he approaches things, because I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm just extrapolating things a little. Maybe I'm reaching.
But there's more to the story though. So we'll probably talk about it later.
Yeah, I don't want an answer. I'm just throwing out thoughts, predictions.
So anyway, everyone's partying. Luffy and Brook talk about Laboon, and Brook finds out that Laboon is in fact still there, and his because that's the thing, he has it. 50 years. Anything could have happened to Laboon. Even when he saw him, he was being hunted by poachers. One of whom happened to be the Princess of Alabasta, but never mind that. So it's like, and so it's like, that sort of like, not, but now he knows. Now he's got he's got everything back. He knows Laboon's there, so he can go deliver the last performance. He's got his shadow back. Like, there's no more, ties to his past, and he's able to move forward. Like, and then we get the flashback where we see the Rumbar Pirates and little teeny baby Laboon. That was adorable. We kind of already know the story, but it's interesting to see Brook's old design when he was alive. They just do their adventures in the West Blue. They try to get him to stay behind in the West Blue while they go in the Grand Line. It doesn't work. They stay there for a few months with Crocus before going on their adventure. See, it's like, as a flashback, I think it, like, again, we already have a lot of the information, so, like, most of it is just, like, fine. Then we see what Brook, like, living alone on the ship. This poor fucking guy, man. Like, the one part where he's, like, sleeping, and he's woken up by his crew, and he's like, hey, oh, you weren't dead. And then, oh, yeah, they were. Like, Jesus fuck.
Yeah, because it was like this point of like, what is reality, what is a dream? Like, ugh.
Like the cabin fever of just like being here alone and losing your fucking mind. Like, but he was able to, like, he had the one, his afro hit in the concert, the like the tone dial of the their last performance, like keeping him sane. So it's like that's all he has left.
What I also do kind of like about this flashback, maybe I'm misinterpreting it again, but I feel like it implies very dark things without like fully dwelling on them. Like, I feel like Oda tried to keep it still sort of like
that, he
lighter.
Definitely does that. Like, there's potential implications of like really, and some even less implications. But it's like, if you know, like it's there's some shit later. But like, yeah, it's definitely, he does dark things, but he has it's overall a very light, uplifting, idealistic story. So he kind of tones them down, or doesn't directly, it's like stuff that kids
I feel
might
like
not notice,
he recognizes that these things are dark, and it's not like he's shying away from showing that darkness, but he also, like, again, like this flashback is happening at the end of the arc, so it's like more of the uplifting point. Like, we've just had the big climax, so it's like,
the kind of stuff like you read as a kid and you're like, oh yeah, Brook, this funny skeleton guy, and then you reread it as an adult, and you're like, oh, holy shit, this is grim. Like, it's just, like, you just think about it, and it's like, whoa, it takes on a new perspective when you have more like knowledge of the subjects at hand. Because again, like, Brook's he's such a goofy guy, but he's also a really dark character, and I think that's interesting just because of the shit he's been through.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And then so anyway, his whole crew gets hit by poisoned weapons. They realize they're all gonna die except Brook. So they decide to leave, a legacy, a will, and they all sing. And I got you to watch the. I actually watched for the first time the English dub of the scene, and it works better with the lyrics because one part that fucking hit me was there's a part of the song, Binks's Brew or Binks's Sake, where they talk about sort of like the ship leaving, and it could, there's a sadness to it, but keep your memories because they'll never fade. And it's like, that's death basically. And that part, they play it during the anime, they have that part going while Brook is alone on the ship singing that part, and so that's making me cry already. And then we get to the last part of the flashback where, oh, we're down to a quartet. And then he starts counting down solo. Oh, fucking God. Like, Brook happens to be the last one alive, even to just, like, he can't even be the first, like, he can't even, like, see some of the, crew be alive when he dies for the first time. Like, God damn. This poor dude. but yeah, then we get the eighth person. So yeah, yeah, just to say, I cried a lot watching, because I watched it both while I was reading, because like honestly, like the music, the anime really just enhances it, because the music is just nice, because the anime usually stretches stuff out, so it's like sometimes you'll get good stuff and sometimes they'll add stuff that's good, but like so a lot of times it doesn't work. But with music, they can't stretch it out because it's a song. I mean, they do kind of do with but even the manga does that. But it's like, there's actually another musical bit coming up in the anime soon that I'm curious about. But yeah, this one was also, it's really good in the anime. It's probably one of my favorite scenes, and of course, I cry like a bitch. So yeah, you probably didn't cry though, right? Or did you?
No, it didn't get me, but I do recognize the emotions there. One thing I did think was kind of interesting was how like this was integrated into the manga. Like obviously there's no sound or anything to convey it, but just the way like Oda did his montage of panels, and he also had like, you know, the way he divided up the page and like had the lyrics up top and the panel.
Yes.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it's neat in both, but like I also like the song. Like I know the Japanese lyrics a little better because I've been listening to it hearing it for longer. But like, oh, it's good. And you know, like after all that nightmare, like he's finally just like, I'm glad I lived, and he joins the crew for sure this time, and we even get the eighth person.
I love the big spread where he's sitting at the piano and Luffy's like up top, and he's like, "Can I join your crew?" And Luffy's like, "Sure." And
yeah, it's just like, cause like that's the thing about manga is like just the fact like the different panel sizes, like it just gives it, like you could imagine this panel as being smaller, but because it's given like it's across 2 pages, it just has that much more weight to it. Like it's and sure, yeah, because it's a crewmate joining, and that's always a big celebration, and everyone's happy, and it's great.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say this is my favorite moment of a crew member joining, but I just really like that panel. Like Luffy's just like up top being Luffy, just kind of lazing around. But it just feels really heartwarming. It's a very warm feeling panel. I like it.
One Piece is so good. We're almost done with the arc. So, Brook introduces himself properly, and then they make a big gravestone for the Rumbar Pirates, so Brook can finally put them to rest. Zoro puts his sword to rest. I like the bit where they're like, oh yeah, I'm part of your crew, and it's like, this crew's a handful, Zoro knows.
I also like how like Zoro gives like a memorial for his sword, the sword that got destroyed.
Yes, Yubashiri, I think, or Shira, I think. Yeah, the one he got from the sword shop for free. So, but yeah. So yeah, if you don't have any final thoughts, so yeah, they're going to Fishman Island. And then Lola gives it what. So yeah, this is what I was talking about a while ago, because I mentioned like, how did Mihawk find Shanks in the Grand Line? This which is a thought I had, because the Grand Line's hard to navigate in, but like there are ways to find people. So the answer, so that's just speculation on my part, that Mihawk has a Vivre card for Shanks. Which is interesting, but it's definitely, but it's possible, because he found Shanks pretty handily, let's be honest. But yeah, so we get introduced to that here, and of course it connects back to something Oda did ages ago. and while also foreshadowing towards the future, because like Ace is in prison, so he's probably not. He doesn't seem to be doing too well, considering the paper is on fire. It's slowly burning. So.
And what is also sort of interesting is that, like, they set up Impel Down with the Robin stuff back in Water 7 Annie's Lobby.
As one of the greatest, with it's part of the triumvirate with the Marine headquarters and Annie's Lobby, which is now a smoldering husk, thanks to the Straw Hats. So yeah, it's we're getting more build up to whatever Impel Down is, and then and that's pretty much it. It leaves on the cliffhanger. Ace's life is burning away. We know he's been captured, and that's the end of Thriller Bark. Or what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say this could also potentially be interesting. I don't know the exact location of Impel Down, so maybe this isn't implied, but this could, like, if the Straw Hats would have to backtrack in this instance to kind of go back to Impel Down, if it is still like in the vicinity of Annie's Lobby, it might not necessarily be that. Maybe they're still moving forward, but I do think that would be kind of interesting, considering up to this point it's all been about the adventure, all about going forward. So if they would have to backtrack in this instance to do something, I feel like I don't know what the significance to that would be, but I just think it's an interesting thing to point out
Yeah.
if it does happen. Which again, I
But
don't know. We'll get to that
see.
maybe eventually. So
Next time, Fishman Island, right? Anyway, so
yeah.
yeah, overall thoughts on Thriller Bark.
I don't know
Like,
how
'cause,
highly I want to rank this because I really, really like Thriller Bark. Like, I
see,
definitely
going
like
through
it more than
there's
Skypiea.
like, like it's rough for me too because it's like I did really enjoy it going through it again, but it's like also other One Piece arcs are really good. So it's like because that's the thing is like because I think there was a comment saying like how it's like it's over like because let's put it this like I still like Enies Lobby better, but rereading Thriller Bark I appreciated a lot. Like I even appreciated Enies Lobby a lot too. But like it's Thriller Bark's really good, but it's also like is it Enies Lobby? Like probably not. You know, like I think I would put it. I think I'd put it above Alabasta, honestly. Cause it's like, Alabasta was also really good, but at the same time, Thriller Bark I just think has some more interesting conflicts. Maybe it's the individual fights. Like yeah, the individual fights were all pretty good. Like even Zoro versus Mr. One is still really good. And then as far as like emotional moments go, like the mark on the back of the hand thing it gets me crying, but so does Brook's backstory and the last part of that and the Binks Sasake. So it's like, yeah, I think I would put Thriller Bark a little bit above Alabasta.
You know what? I think I'm gonna agree with you there.
Even though Alabasta got you a stronger emotional reaction?
Yeah, Alabasta
At
gave me the
least-
stronger emotional reaction, but I found myself like just in the act of reading it, I felt like I enjoyed this more.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I mean, it's really
like,
tough.
I mean, I think in retrospect, I think I will still rank Skypiea higher than I don't know if because it's like weird with Skypiea is weird with me because I just reread it last year and that impacted my experience rereading it just now. So it's like I think like I do enjoy the arc more than Alabasta, but reading through both like back to back, like the experience of going through Alabasta was a bit better. But I still like so Skypiea. It's not quite fair because I already reread it like last time, and that so I didn't get as much more out of it, like noticing things and making connections. So and that impacted my enjoyment a little bit. So I don't know, maybe I'll enjoy it more going through it again. But like it's weird. But Thriller Bark's also really good. So now I'm like fuck.
See, I feel like I don't want to say that like Alabasta didn't have an atmosphere to it, but I don't know, something about like the Halloween spookiness of Thriller Bark just really stands out to me, and it feels really distinct.
And the timing is perfect too because
so maybe
Halloween
maybe
was
that
just last
influences
week,
my
so.
bias a little, the timing of it. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like the atmosphere. I like all the ideas that are present. I like the way everything's constructed and put together.
It's a really great arc. It really is.
So yeah, I guess
and nowhere else in the fucking fandom are you gonna see two people go like, yeah, Thriller Bark is better than Alabasta. Like I don't think that's gonna happen a lot. Even though it is really good.
I also think like it's even more interesting that I would potentially put Thriller Bark above Alabasta, considering we just came off of Water 7, which was also like spectacular.
Yeah, that's when you were like, yeah, One Piece is 10 out of 10. Because I wonder if, like, also part of it's, like, because you're now like, oh, yeah, I cried over a boat. One Piece is 10 out of 10. I wonder if maybe that just means, like, going to One Piece is more enjoyable to you. Like, you now have, a bias for it that you might not have had when we read through Alabasta, even though you did really like Alabasta. You know, because I'm speaking, I'm not you, but I've talked to you, and like you've definitely been more enthused since like Alabasta, Water 7 parts 2 and 3, and this one, Thriller Bark, are definitely the most you've been like enthused and in on the conversation. You know, like not that you weren't before, but you were definitely more like, yeah, it's okay, and now you're more like, yeah, this is great, I want to talk about it. So it's like. That's just my perspective. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll go back and listen. Oh yeah, you had more to say in that arc. But like,
yeah, I know. Like Arlong Park was the hook. I think Alabasta was what got me. Water 7 was what put me like 10 out of 10 status, and then this is just like icing on the cake. Which I guess everything else beyond this point will be, or it'll be a disappointment. Right. I don't know. Seems unlikely, but.
Yeah, no, there's definitely arcs that people don't like as much, but at the same time, like, the one that just finished, I really liked, but it's also kind of unpopular, and I feel like the reason is because people, I don't know, they kind of don't get One Piece, I don't know, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So anyway, next time, we are reading chapters of, it's gonna be a shorter stretch, because, then it's gonna, but you will understand why. It's chapters 490, to 524, so only 34 chapters, which still isn't. I guess that's a bit smaller, but it's not. We'll see. It'll be a short episode. And yeah, this is episode 11 out of 20 for One Piece, so we are definitely more than halfway through chapter-wise and episode-wise. Though expect some, like the next one's going to be shorter, but expect some longer ones in the future because of how it's divided. So yeah, Thriller Bark is good. One Piece is good. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Have a spooky day.
Spooky. Ooh. Oh yeah, there's no endings anymore. The anime ran out. Sad.